And we're live. Welcome to another episode of Break the Rules. I'm your host, Lev Polyakov, and we are here today for a very special episode with returning champions Brian O'Shea, SPI, Vladislav Davidson, and not a newcomer necessarily because you were in an earlier stream in a surprise appearance, but JerryMacc, the Ukrainian Loremaster in Ukraine, in Kyiv right now, and we're going to be doing something very special. We are going to be talking to the actual Ukrainian people because Donald Trump was talking before about how there is a sound, by the way, coming from your microphone, Brian. I don't know what it
Sorry.
is. No problem at all. So we are going to be talking with the actual Ukrainian people in Kyiv because, as Donald Trump was talking about earlier, how what Zelensky wants is very different from what his people want, and his people want this peace deal and all of that. I figure, why not bring the people to people who are a little bit more skeptical about whether America should be helping out Ukraine or not, as well as what exactly the people there think. And of course, just brief introductions for those who do not know. Brian O'Shea, former U.S. Special Forces, corruption hunter at consumerdiligence.com, and threat analyst at banthebrotherhood.org. A very particular brotherhood that I'm glad has been getting a bit more press lately. And Vladislav Davidson, who is, last time we were talking about him being in the Atlantic Council, senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, and he is a dandy. He is a writer for publications like Tablet Magazine, as well as many others. And JerryMacc, even though I don't know that much about Jerry, I know that he's a great guy. He is also a historian in a way, lore master about Ukraine, and knows a lot about this country. And he is going to be our man on the street, going through the streets of Kyiv, finding people to talk to, and I actually want to give this responsibility over to Brian here so that nobody could accuse us who are more sympathetic of Ukraine of putting like plant people in. Brian, you're going to be the one who gets to look at the people and pick like, I want that guy in like the I don't know,
Oh, really?
black shirt. Yes. So that's going to be your responsibility right now. As far as whether they speak in Ukrainian, Russian, English, preferably they'd speak in English, but that
We'll
may
make it
not
work.
be.
We'll make it work.
Yeah. We'll translate.
Yeah.
So anyway, Jerry, let us have you switch your phone so that we get a view of the streets and see the people that are out there in the street. And while that's happening, I want to first go to Vlad to give us a general update as to what the current situation is right now with Ukraine, with the peace deal, all of that. So Jerry, switch the cam.
One
And
word, we just like in front of you had some electricity shutdown, so
Hey.
the view will be not perfect, but here we go. We
okay,
have lots of people where I am, some younger, some older,
Oh,
and yeah, it is what it is.
okay. All right, so let's see if we can get to some of these people. Then,
Gotcha.
let's see.
Should I start with like explaining where we are? Like
Yeah,
30,
yeah, yeah. yeah.
30-second version, minute version, 2-minute version?
Yeah, let's do a 30-second version. But also, Jerry, your screen is black right now.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was just about to ask Brian to pick out the person to talk with. But Vlad, take it away. While Jerry, please make the screen not black.
Let's do the thumbnail.
The electricity shutdowns come with internet hiccups, so yeah.
Yeah, so
But
this is
yeah,
what
we're
we're
still
dealing
here.
with. Yeah, we're still here. It's going to get back up. So Vlad, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, we'll hope the electricity will be fine. Listen, the Ukrainians are in the middle of a grinding war of attrition and trying to hold on to some towns around Donetsk fortress belt. They are trying to keep several thousand, I don't know, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 guys, Ukrainian guys who are surrounded from being killed. We don't know how that situation is. The Ukrainians have been trying to hold on to what's left of Pokrovsk and its little suburb exurb towns because that's very important for symbolic reasons. It's not that important for military reasons anymore, but it's symbolic for negotiation reasons. And the Russians do these fake flag raisings. They'll send some guys in with a flag. They'll raise the flag for video. Those guys will immediately get killed by a drone, by the Ukrainian drones, and the flag will be down. They'll send in other guys with a flag raising. The Ukrainians and Russians even have verbs and adjectives for fake flag raisings. On the other hand, 6-7 hours ago, we have information that the Ukrainians did a very decent counter offensive around the Kupiansk town. So while Pokrovsk was being kind of beaten down, they've done well in taking back the north of Kupiansk. And Putin some days ago said, look, go yourself. Anyone can go themselves and see that Kupiansk is Russian now. And Zelensky, balls of steel, showed up in northern Kupiansk, a mile and a half from the nearest Russian position, and took a selfie in front of the Kupiansk town sign, right? So just Zelensky personally went to shake the hands of defenders of Kupiansk and showed up a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles at most, from the nearest Russian position. Balls of steel. There you go. That's where we are right now.
And Brian, and by the way, before I go to Brian, Jerry, why don't we do this? Maybe find people here, because again, these are too small for Brian to pick right now, but try to find people here and ask them, you know, not off camera maybe, but without turning the sound on. Ask them if they're interested in speaking. This is an American show. We have people here who are more associated with the MAGA, and this would be a chance for this kind of interaction. So, Jerry, if you can hear me, if you can try to facilitate that. Meanwhile,
Okay,
I
let's
will
do
go
it.
to... Well, mute, yeah. But meanwhile, let's go to Brian. Brian, I know that one of the things we were talking about a lot is the lack of a honorific warrior philosophic ethos within a lot of these circles, be they left or right or whatever. We need a lot more people who demonstrate, you know, honor and truthfulness and not being bought. Not being bought, like you were talking about before with your analysis of consumer diligence. It isn't just people who are the Democrats. A lot of the MAGA people, you know, end up having grifters that come in and try to take advantage of people's, you know, lack of experience. So when it comes to having Zelensky, you know, regardless of some of the things that were said about him in the media, you know, to denigrate him in Ukraine, would you not say that that action that he took, actually going somewhere where it is dangerous, that is more of this old school example of people who are, you know, higher up the chain, willing to put their life at risk?
If you're interested, we found one person.
Oh,
who
okay.
is willing
Our first
to,
client.
talk with us.
Okay, first
Saved
time,
by the
Brian.
JerryMacc.
So,
All right.
може, нема ніде світла, так? There is no light here, so we're. Can you see us?
Sort of. We see...
You know, if we just do voice, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I trust
Hi.
him.
Hello.
Hi, so we're here from the United States, and we would love to get your opinion on what do you think about the peace deal that was proposed for Ukraine by Witkoff and Jared Kushner. We could start with that. And we got the car alarm, of course. So,
Well, it is what it is.
yes, okay. So, Brian, I don't know if you are or are not saved by the bell being the car alarm.
No, I
right
could
now.
answer your
Yes.
earlier question. So I'm not aware of the, you know, the selfie. You know, so I don't want to say yes, that's brave on Zelensky's part or not because I haven't seen it. But I will say, I mean, he's an actor by trade. As a former military guy, I think anyone that puts themselves in harm's way, if they're the leader of a country, I don't think that's really that smart. I understand rallying the troops and leading from the front, of course. But I think anyone that puts themselves in harm's way is, of course, brave, especially when they're doing it for other people. I just can't, you know, say that what he did was brave because I haven't seen it, nor have I had time to verify that it's real.
No, fair enough. So
Bri-
let's go to our guest right
Brian,
now.
but just
Oh,
very quickly, Brian, I respect that so much, what you just said, and maybe it's not great that he's just planting himself in drones' path, but the difference between the Russian and Ukrainian military leadership and civilian leadership is that Zelensky has continuously been in tunnels and dugouts and bases, meeting with the troops and shaking hands, where Putin has not made a single, in 3.5 years, as far as I know, visit even to Russian deep occupied territory within Ukraine. So like there's a very different mentality. One is a 70-year-old man who sits in a bunker and is afraid, and the other one is a young man, vigorous, who goes out to the front. Whether that's smart, whether that's dumb, whether it's irresponsible, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look, I mean, I'm not going to try to assess someone's, psychological profile, because I'm not a psychologist. I don't know either man. I will say, and again, look, I'm not a fan of either one of these guys. Let me just be clear.
Okay.
But I will say this, both of them have been leading their countries for a little while now, and I don't think how they operate on the battlefield really determines their sense of leadership. I mean, let's not forget that Putin's been running that country for a long time. How he runs it and how he stayed in power is, that's irrelevant. The fact is that I think just to hold power in some of these countries is an act of incredible bravery, because everyone's constantly trying to kill you so they could be the next man up. So I don't think we should go down the route of trying to assess their mental state. And keep in mind too, there's different doctrines for how, chiefs of staff or commanders in chief are to lead. The way the Russians fight is, set in stone for the last, 100 years since the Soviet Union.
Right.
And, I don't personally think that Putin not going out, and I don't know if I know I've seen a lot of pictures of him actually visiting troops, but we don't have to get into that now. But I will say,
Right.
he's at the end of the day, he is, leading the way he wants to lead, and he's still in charge. So, and his troops, maybe not on the front lines, I don't know, but I've worked with the Russian military. Believe it or not, that we were working with the Spetsnaz back, when we used to like Russia.
I want to make sure we get to the guest though, because he's been
yeah,
waiting for a
it's
while.
getting socially awkward. So
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Segment, and then we go on.
Yes.
I'll move on. Looking
Yeah,
for any other
so my
people.
apologies for the wait. First off, do you speak English?
Yeah, of course. I'm a developer myself, and I speak with the Westerns like a lot. So I have experience with speaking with all of you guys. And something I want to say,
Sorry. Could you bring the microphone closer, just so we hear your voice better?
Yeah. I hope you hear me well. My name is Kyiv, and I'm from Zaporizhzhia.
Oh wait, it's much worse now. You have to make sure you're speaking into.
Yeah, we don't
the
have to see
microphone.
his face. If he just wants to hold it up, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Way better.
Yes.
Hear me now? Okay, so
Yeah, but for some reason, I don't know. Oh, wait, sorry to interrupt you guys, but for some weird reason, when JerryMacc speaks, we hear him clearly. When you speak, it's too far away, or I don't know, like try to speak exactly how Jerry's speaking to the phone. My apologies. Hold on. We are currently figuring all the technicalities out here, but this is a very good learning experience as far as what works, what doesn't work. And by the way, I want to ask everybody who's watching this to please subscribe right now, like this stream. We're learning from all the situations that are going on here as far as where to shoot best and all that stuff. So we are going to figure it out. Jerry, I don't know if you're here right now, if you're able to hear us, because I don't see what's going on. And okay, here we go.
Yeah, so guys, do you hear me well now?
Yes,
I'm the
yes.
random encounter here from a random bar in Ukraine, and I want to introduce myself. My name is Kyiv, and I'm a full stack developer, web developer from Zaporizhzhia, and I experienced all this stuff like from the beginning, and a few things I want to say to you all, like the whole Westerns, like the whole Americans here. The first thing that you don't really understand what's really going on here, because the Putin is just playing games with you, like playing the poker, and he knows like exactly how you react and what you like want to see, and he playing like all this deal stuff and so on. But the only thing that he wants to achieve is just the whole Ukraine. If there is no like peaceful shit or something like else, I'm a Russian speaker myself, and there is like no support from Russia. My father is dead on the war. Actually, he was in the war and he died like years ago, and he was from Russia. He lives in Ukraine, but he was originally born in Russia, and I don't really understand what decision you make and what you think about just Russia, the gigantic country, want to kill like the whole people in Ukraine, and this is the only purpose because they have like all the resources, all the gas, and all the stuff they want. They have like tons of money, like more money than any Europeans have, and so on. So, guys, it's like more ideological things, and I have no profit. I have no profit in saying that. I just a random guy in a Kyiv bar that just this random guy just came here and asked me a few questions, and it's just an opportunity for me to say all these things to you. I don't know you all guys, but
I just have a specific question about the peace deal. So when Jared Kushner and Witkoff came
I know about this
deal. What do you think about the peace deal itself?
I think it's kind of bullshit to just take more time to prepare Russians to get more weapons and understand the tactics and all the stuff, and got done everything like properly. Not like the first time it was in 2022. Because they fucked up, they don't really understand what is going on, and they all think that we speak in Russian, and this means that we are kind of Russian, but this not really is, because there is like many countries in a post-Soviet Union period that speak Russian, but they're not really Russian at all, because it's different mentality, it's different things that we like choose to live, like like many factors in Russia. It's a different thing. And actually, I was in Russia like first time, and I guess it's like the last time. I was in Russia once, like in 2020 or something like that. Like in the time of COVID starts, it was in Moscow originally, and a bunch of Chinese came in Moscow, and this is like grow up and all this stuff. And I was in Moscow at that time. And it's like up. Absolutely different, like environment.
Maybe
different.
Can he speak a little slower?
Yes. Number one, would it be possible to speak a little bit slower? Number two, is there any way you can move somewhere without the sounds of the people in the bar having their drinking and all of that? I don't want you to go like too far away, because obviously we interrupted you from where you are right now. But just so there wouldn't be as many of those background sounds, if possible. But also, while that is happening, Brian, do you have any thoughts on what he said, and also any follow-up question?
Yeah, well, I mean, what I did want to ask him, like, what's his name? He gave me that, but can you tell me his name again? Because it was hard to hear.
It was hard to hear for me as well. Yes. So
okay.
I don't know if you are able to hear us. Can you confirm if you are or not able to hear us? And also, it probably is better, at least in terms of where you are right now, to shut the camera off, because there seems to be a problem with the camera and the audio at the same time.
I would just do the audio.
Yeah. Just do the audio if that's possible here. So let us know. There we go. Okay, so let us know. Can you hear us, first of all? Because I have no idea whether you can or cannot hear what's happening right now. So just give us some signal. Hello? And he's gone. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. Again, this is the first time we've done such a thing, so I have no expectations other than to see what's happening. I think in the future, and Vlad, maybe you can help us out on this, if you can determine certain zones where you know that the internet is not going to fail on mobile, where it's going to be like...
I love the modern world.
Wait, Vlad, you're muted. You're muted.
I'm muted. I can't even do it in your apartment. Expect me to do it in a war zone? Yeah?
Are you, Vlad? Where are you at right now? Are you in the States? Are you overseas?
Don't say the address. Don't say the address, please.
I am sitting in
Don't
a
say the address.
New York City location, which may
Good.
or may
Okay,
not.
Alpha Team 6. He is confirmed in New York City.
I am in New York City, which in a situation which may or may not be owned by the Polika family.
Okay. All right. So anyway, without getting more in details,
Where are you, Brian?
there,
Where are you, Brian?
Right now, I am in Salem, Massachusetts, and
Oh.
anyone can have my address. I
Yeah.
You're
really
burning
want.
witches. You're burning witches.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. No, but
So-
this is an important question before I get further into this
Mhm.
discussion. As far as where it makes the most sense at this time of night, I guess it's 10 o'clock in Ukraine right now. It must be pretty
Yeah.
pretty late.
Mhm.
In terms of where such things are best to occur, I don't know, Vlad, in your opinion,
Lev,
what-
next time we do this, or if this works out, we should do it in the government quarter or in high-end hotels. I mean, it's a randomized thing. The government quarter
Mhm.
and stuff where a major institution, such as maybe the Defense Ministry, the Energy Ministry, the SBU building, within 10 blocks of that, you're not going to have problems with electricity. And a high-end hotel, they have their own everything, their own stuff. Monsieur Jerry, are you back?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, it got kind of
Sounds
messy
great.
on the technical part. Do
Did
you
the
hear
guy-
me now?
Do you still have that lovely guy? Is he still with us?
No, he came and passed away.
Well, why
Okay.
don't we? I have an idea. Why don't we
Yeah.
start? I mean, Jerry's Ukrainian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start asking him questions.
Yeah,
while he
let's
finds
start
other
with
people.
him while you're walking around. But before we do that, I want to ask Jerry if he's close to any of the locations. Vlad, say real quickly again. The
Where are
location.
Jerry? What part of town are you in, basically?
I've been just been near Dom Kino.
Dom
There
Kino.
is Gulliver right here.
Yeah.
Olimpijska.
That's not the best part of town. You need to be somewhere closer to Gulliver. Has the top of Gulliver has radio and television stations on top of it. That's the only thing there. That part of town, I've been on television in the Gulliver Tower. That's the only thing there. There's nothing of infrastructure there. That's why there's no electricity there.
There is no like anti-reb,
there's-
no interference machinery working. It's
Yeah, but
just
you're in
a
the wrong
technical
part of
hiccup
town.
on my part.
If you were closer to Sofievskaya, or you were closer to Maidan, or you're closer to like the ministries, they protect those areas better for obvious reasons.
Well, it is what it is now.
Yeah.
Oh, is it
here's
back
here's a
on?
person. Here's someone. See if you can ask them.
Who do you mean?
The lady over there.
Lady,
with the
lady,
bag.
in the
Yeah.
sorry, lady.
Перепрошую,
Yeah.
ви не хотіли б два слова переговорити з нами? Ні? She doesn't want to. Дякую вам дуже.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Next. Go
Yeah,
find.
yeah. Let's see.
Find
Yeah,
a random.
Lev, did you have a
This-
question for me?
I do have a question. So, in general, what do you think about what that guy had to say as far as the peace deal and as far as just his overall, and this is something I was alluding to earlier, his overall view of Americans being played by Russians?
Yeah, look, I think Americans in general are being played by the entire situation. You know where I stand. I don't think we should even be there. I also think we're being played by the EU because they're still the number 2 customer for natural gas from Russia. And I also think, as you know, we're being played by China, who's the number 1 oil customer for Ukraine's from Russia. I think it's, as much as the so let me just preface it with this.
Sure.
Like, I've been to Ukraine several times. I used to speak at Students for Liberty, which is a libertarian organization. So I spoke all over Georgia,
Mhm.
Montenegro, Russia, Ukraine. And I'll speak for most of the people I know. I don't know anyone that doesn't like the Ukrainian people or have an opinion. There's a lot of people who've never met a Ukrainian person. It's never been the issue. The issue for us is we've already allocated $180+ billion to Ukraine, and we can't drive down the street without hitting about 15 potholes. And it takes us $100 to fill up our gas. And, it's just too much. We've given so much And of that 180, at least 87 billion, according to several sites I was reading today, including the government sites, 87 billion has gone over there. And so, great, we've done our piece, is the way I see it. Where is the EU? It's like, that's the thing. It's like just today I was.
And before Vlad answers, I just want to give Jerry one more suggestion. Like before, if you see people, approach them, ask them politely, and let them know this is in America. This is an American show with MAGA people who are in the audience as well as participating in here as well. Right. So that, see what happens from there. But you could do that off, like you don't need to have the audio on for that.
Let's do it,
yeah. If you find somebody, then we're going to go right back to you. Okay, so anyway, Vlad, go on.
Well, if I could just finish my thought.
Oh, sure, Brian, please go ahead. Sorry.
And so, just today, and look, again, I don't think we should be involved at all. Plain and simple. I don't think. I think I've always thought it was a regional conflict. I don't think that Ukraine is the only thing holding back the Russian hordes from taking democracy away from the world. I just, logistically, that doesn't even make sense. And like I said to you, Lev, the thing is, if they could have swept through Europe and then America and Canada, they would have done it long ago if that's their intention. And they've never stated that as their intention. That's part of the thing I'm saying. Granted, people don't always state their intentions, but if you just go to Jane's defense and just get a loose number of the population size of their army, you can't even hold through Poland with the size of the Russian army. But that's beside the point. The point I'm making is I never wanted to give money to Ukraine. I never saw it as a vital. I don't think it's in our strategic interest whatsoever. We don't have to debate about that. I know you guys disagree. But what I am saying is if the EU is so serious and so worried about Russia as a threat, then why are they haggling right now in Brussels over releasing, using that money that's been held from Russian oligarchs or whatever they say? And it's Brussels themselves that's standing between the other EU members saying, no, that might violate international law. No, we can't touch that money. When I hear those kind of things, so I believe it's 170 billion or more.
It's about 180 billion in central Russian bank assets.
Yeah, and this is not my area of expertise, so any details Vlad wants to add on what's going on there. But what I am saying is when I hear people wanting to hold on to that amount of money, that means the money's not there or someone's dipped into that and is using it for other purposes. And if they open those books, they're going to say, oh, crap, where's the money? I don't know that. That's just my hunch based on my due diligence work in, when I used to work for M&A and venture capitalist firms. But so my biggest thing here is like, look, if they're serious and Russia's that much of a threat.
People here
go ahead, sir.
Who are willing to talk.
Oh, excellent. Hi, how are you? Do you speak English, by the way?
Let me translate them to you.
Okay.
Perfect.
What's your name?
What is your name? Назарий.
I'm Brian. Nice to meet you.
А вы по-русски говорите?
А вы говорите по-русски? Вам слышно? Do you hear anything?
Yes.
Out of Nazarий. По-русски.
Нужно ближе. You have to put the microphone closer to him because this is way too far away.
He says that Russians are F-words and the peace deal must go just like on our conditions, like we want them to have. This is like a general opinion right here.
Okay, so he is not a big fan of the attempts that has been done by Kushner and Witkoff to do the peace deal.
Kushner и Witkoff. He doesn't know who.
That's leading, Lev. You are leading.
Wait, why am I leading?
If we were in a court of law, you just took him saying that Russians are F words into, so you don't feel good about the peace deal.
Well, I would have asked that. I would have asked that question regardless. But
come on, journalists. Well, you could ask the question.
Yeah. Well, Brian, you asked the question. What question?
Look, my question is very simple. First of all, what do you do for work? I work as little as possible because I'm lazy.
What do you do? Що ти робиш? Ким ти працюєш? He works as a cleaner, janitor man.
Okay, great. And really
He cleans
quickly,
offices every day.
and I got one more question at the end. And then it's nice to meet you. My question is this: do you prefer to keep Zelensky in power, or would you like to see some elections regardless of the war?
Ти хочеш, щоб Зеленський залишався у влади? І яка в тебе думка? Детальніше. Детальніше, he doesn't give a damn whether it's Zelensky or anybody else.
Okay.
His position
That's
doesn't
good.
change because of this.
Okay, but does he prefer to have the elections while the war is going on right now?
Ти хотів би, щоб зараз відбулися вибори під час війни? He doesn't mind elections taking place during the war, but he doesn't think that it will change any calculation about it.
Okay, so Western media, and by the way, we don't trust any of our media, by the way, right wing or left wing, is saying that all the Ukrainian people are standing behind Zelensky. If you look at some of like the New York Times, and they'd rather win than have elections, so they're standing behind their man. That's what the Western media is saying. Do they feel that way? Is that true?
Yes, he agrees with that because Zelensky has a good support, but he personally, like, once again, doesn't give a crap who will be the president. But he feels that Zelensky has his support.
Okay, and then my final question, because they look like my kind of guys, if they ever could get to New York, will they let me buy them the beer or whiskey of their choice?
If he will be in New York, he will be stayed here, and you can entertain him.
I'll come to him.
And if he comes to New York, he's staying. That's what he said.
Yeah. Well, anybody would.
That's funny. Thank you
man.
so much. I was
Thank you.
and then where
Yeah.
one more question. Where do they get most of their news?
Звідки ти дізнаєшся новини? From Telegram channels, from
Yeah.
various
Oh,
Telegram
wait.
channels.
I
That's
got
good.
a question, very important question, because I was talking to Brian about this before, which is there a fear of talking how you really feel about Zelensky and the government? Is there a fear of being persecuted by Zelensky's government if you talk against the kind of things that Zelensky wants to do?
Тебе будуть переслідувати, якщо ти будеш говорити про Зеленського якісь погані речі. He doesn't give a crap, he doesn't feel any kind of persecution.
А другие люди, другие люди чувствуют так или нет?
Чи всі з собою? Так, абсолютно, всі nobody gives a we can say Zelensky is an F word, we can say whatever we like, and it will not influence, it will not harm us in any manner.
Final question. Do you care how the war ends, just that it ends?
А тобі є різниця, як закінчиться війна? Of course, he does. And детальніше.
That's fair.
Ага. Ага. А хто там, який контролює? Там русські в Києві ще? Ага. А віддати території? Які? Донбас там?
Если бы на данный момент, то можно было бы их отдать, потому что мы проиграем ситуацию.
He wants to the war to end as much quickly and with as little casualties as possible. He absolutely against Russians, like in Kyiv, Russian government in Kyiv. This is like a big no-no.
Right.
He wouldn't give out Donbass, for instance, but there is like the reality of the war is how it is, and it may be.
Jerry, he intimated in his response that he wouldn't be against territorial concessions in exchange for security. That's what he intimated.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
like,
what is
if in the best case scenario, we will give out. We will take
But just to make
Donbass, but
sure,
it's
just to make sure when you
right
say security, what do you mean by security?
Like, do you ми даємо Донбас, і що ми отримаємо? Захист, типа. А ну от в ідеалі, типа, от віддаємо і що ми хочемо мати?
В ідеалі це, щоб ми отримали назад для своїх територій. і все.
Ні, а якщо ми Донбас віддаємо, то що нам за це мають? Там, не знаю, американські війська тут, НАТО, чи ще. Гарантія? Які гарантії?
Безпеки повністю.
He believes like the good scenario is we give out Donbass for security guarantees, for best case scenario NATO, then like maybe some foreign military here, but people are disappointed about international relations, and he doesn't believe that will happen.
He seems fuzzy on the details, but he wants security guarantees for territorial concessions, is what it
Yeah, this is like the good price for
territorial concessions for security guarantees. Got it. My question, he mentioned international relations. You know, U.S. aside, because we've given the majority of the support to Ukraine, what does he think of the European response since the beginning of this? Can they do more? Have they done enough?
А що ти думаєш, от європейці нам допомагають? Саме європейці. Усі ці останні 3 роки, чи вони зробили достатньо, чи ні?
Ну, европейцы не имеют поддержку, они есть поддержку, но они не совсем они хорошо поддерживают, но они поддерживают. Именно американцы, они пытаются, вот и наш сам Трамп пытается нас работать. Так что, если мы подпишем какую-то то, возможно, как-то они европейцы пытаются нам помочь,
So he views that Europeans give us mild support, but they still give us support. And it's unlike Trump administrations that is likely to give us away, likely to cheat us, that wants to the war to end whatever the cost. And he perceives Europeans are afraid of Americans and afraid of American response to their support. And this is one of the reasons why their support is mild. This is like estimation of our European and U.S. relations.
Wait, he said so that he thinks the EU support is mild because they're scared of the U.S.?
This is one of them, да? Типа, они не дають нам підтримки через європейці не дають нам підтримки, тому що вони бояться США. А як? Давай.
I've never heard that before.
Мы не решаем абсолютно ничего,
So he believes, like on the EU-US questions, the fear of US response is one of the reasons. But like the more deeper emotional response is that like with things being how they are, Ukrainians do not have any like have less and less influence in everything that occurs, and we are used as pawns, like by Americans specifically, because Americans and Russians have this specific relationship, and now we are the chip on the table for for these relations, not with EU because EU supports us widely but strongly.
Right, but how does he
I will
feel?
let these people go.
Oh damn! I had one more
That's
question.
fine.
Last question.
Последний вопрос.
So my question was this:
Once
you know, so the EU is still the second largest customer for Russian oil and natural gas. Does he think they should really, despite sanctions, they're still buying it, which, in my opinion, is fueling the war machine of Russia? How does he feel about this?
Yeah, he's muted right now. But yeah, unmute yourself when you can. And the camera is off, but that's okay. I mean, look how much we got during that time. Oh, here we go.
Oh no.
He'll be back.
Give him a second.
Yeah.
I got to say, Lev, you got some courage doing it this way because I'm such a neat freak when I'm trying to set up my episodes, even though they come out terrible. But
no, I mean the camera's out right now. He's physically not present on the stage, but like Vlad said, we're dealing right now with a location which is not the best in general for receiving data.
He's in the center, but not in the center that's protected by the air defense and electricity defense, because there's no ministries there. There's no infrastructure there. He's like in the not nice part of center, like a mile away from the defense ministry and from parliament. Got it? So if he was if he was around Parliament or around a nice hotel, you wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah. Even though, despite that problem, we had a really nice conversation with someone who I think all three of us would love to have a beer with if he's going to be in New York City. So we end up finding interesting people.
Yeah,
and
they're cool guys.
yeah,
He's a cool
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
He's a nice
absolutely.
guy.
And I do
I'd buy
wonder
that guy
though,
beer also.
yeah, and I do wonder though, like when he was talking about how we could like say fuck you Zelensky, whatever, it doesn't matter.
100%.
Brian, this is not something that you were aware of before, right? Like when we were speaking.
Well, I wanted to confirm it, because I know it had always been that way. The last time I was in Ukraine was like 2013. And, that's usually the case. And I had heard it loosened up. What I'd heard actually from all people was Ryan Ruth. I don't know where my camera went.
Yeah.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
keep talking.
So I don't know if you guys read Ryan Ruth, the accused would-be assassin of Donald Trump, the second one. But he spent significant time there. And of course, he's definitely not a good source. And what he was saying was in his book that he was out there and he was trying to volunteer. And then there were demonstrations, which is always a good sign if you're going to call yourself a democracy. But they were cracked down on majorly. And he clearly, I'm not inside the man's head. He did try to stab himself in the neck with a pencil. So take it as you will. But he did, but he did seem sincere in his love of Ukraine. And he was still saying, this is terrible. People are protesting and they're getting cracked down by the police.
When was this? Do you know, like, when was the protest?
This would have been about 2022.
Okay, so Vlad, around that time, were there those kind of crackdowns that Brian just talked about?
I mean, 2022. Like, if we're talking about like April, May, March, when the Battle of Kyiv was going on, there was martial law. Like, there were people running around with guns, and there were a lot of Russian agents. Like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, there was a moment when there was a counterinsurgency situation in Kyiv. I'm sure the police shut down all sorts of stuff in April and May of 2022. That's a different time than now. Now, there were massive protests against Zelensky by young people when he tried to do something about getting rid of independence of anti-corruption structures. So, like, there were a lot of guys running out of guns and agents and Russian assets and saboteurs in 2022, the first 6 months of the war.
Yeah, this is summer of 2022.
Yeah. Summer of 2022 was a martial law situation with Russian saboteurs trying to kill Zelensky and running around killing people, picking people off in the middle of major cities. That was a very hardcore situation. Now, in Kyiv and other parts of the country, it's a stabilized war situation. You can have all sorts of demonstrations. People don't really do that kind of stuff because there's a war on, and they don't want to look like they're like. There's a lot of self-censorship amongst the population. They're like, well, we can bitch, we can moan, we can write articles, we can go on social media, but you're not going to have large-scale demonstrations against the government because people are like, ultimately, these are our bastards in the middle of a war of existential retaliation. Does that make sense, Brian?
Yeah. So no inflatable animals banging on the gates.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like, that's a normal response. If a third of American territory was being occupied by invaders, there will be a lot of Americans who even didn't like Donald Trump would be like, well, we fight the enemies first before we demonstrate against ICE or whatever. I think it's that kind of thing.
I don't know, man. Not in today's America. I think half the country would be on the side of the enemy.
I'm sad. Sadly, I agree with that, man. Sadly, you and I disagree on a lot, but that's not something to disagree on.
Yep. Hey, I want to unpack something he said, and this to me seems like a flimsy excuse by the EU. They'd give more, but they're scared of our response. We're still giving 17 billion is allocated a year to Ukraine, and I don't know, man. That just seems like it's honestly, I think they could have done better on that excuse, because if they were so worried about our response by giving Ukraine more of their money, then why aren't they scared of our response for buying so much from Russia?
All right. First of all, this is a great question. Let me just try to get that unpacked as quickly as possible. One, the Europeans just simply do not have the kit and the technology that we have. They don't have the factories. They don't have the production missiles, like the American intelligence and American elite kit, like the best kinds of stuff that we have, nobody else can step in and give that to them. Even the Trump administration stopped giving that stuff away. They let the Europeans buy it discreetly and just ship it over to the Czech Republic or Poland, right? So like in many ways, the stuff that we give them, nobody else can step in because the Europeans spent 30 years under investing in defense and deindustrializing. They just don't have the capacity. They're madly, rapidly trying to reindustrialize, but that's going to take 6, 7, 8, 10 years. That's like a long-term project, right? They can give shells that they produce, and they don't produce enough, but no one's going to produce Patriot missiles for them, American Patriot missiles. We don't even produce enough for ourselves, right? There's no European company that can produce Patriot missiles to restock the Patriots that they sent up, right? The American level of intelligence, secondary, tertiary capacity, nobody can step in for them. So like I want the Americans to keep giving that. I'm happy to have the Europeans pay for our services. I'm happy that the Trump deal where the Europeans pay for every cent of that, and American taxpayers pay less and less. I'm happy with that. Like, that's not an issue. Two, what you said about Brussels, 100% correct. So the thing is, the money that is being kept in Belgium, that is being kept frozen. Those are Russian central bank assets. That is the highest level of sovereign debt. It's almost impossible to steal or get a court to give someone up that kind of debt. Like if you and I go to court against someone, a court can step in. If it's a corporate debt, it's easier to take that. It's easier to have a company's debt given up to pay other kinds of debts. Central bank assets, this is money that is owned by the Russian central bank, is the asset class that is most protected in the world. That is the highest level of diplomatic protection. That is the kind of asset that is most difficult to strip. In the same way that like the Iraqi embassy or the Russian embassy or even the Libyan embassy in Washington or the consulate in New York is very difficult for us to steal that. Like even if the Libyans did some terrible shit, it's very difficult for a court to steal the Libyans' diplomatic assets and to give it up to the family of a survivor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Especially
it's
if
not
you're
impossible. The Belgians are being pussies. I'm sorry to use that language.
Is that what's happening? I mean, it just seemed it. You know, look, I'm a skeptical guy by nature.
Yeah.
When I hear those kind of things, it almost always is, oh shit, we better get that 20 billion back in before they actually free these assets.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that money is being frozen. That money is being held. That money dwarfs the Belgian GDP by like 3 or 4. So the Belgian prime minister is like, these companies, these clearinghouses where we frozen the money, they're like, these are not European clearinghouses. These are actually Belgian companies. And the Russian lawyers that start suing us next week and have a pretty good case of winning it in the long term. Some like a European Union judge in 2 or 3 years in Germany will say, well, the rule of law, we must give back these money, and the Russians get to interest on this. So like this Belgian prime minister is being a dick, but he's also saying, look, this money is worth 4 times the annual GDP of my country, and it's not the European Union that's gonna play ball with Russian lawyers. It's me, the Belgian prime minister, and I don't want to be responsible for that. So I think that's a dumb argument. But he does have an argument. He's like, I'm exposed as Belgium, not the entire European Union.
You know, it'd be interesting to see, you know,
but fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
I hear you. You know, from where you're standing on Ukraine, I totally hear you. My thing is, to me, it sounds like, and again, I don't have a dog in this fight, but to me, it sounds like
I figured out I was muted. My apologies, everybody.
Was I muted?
No, I was muted. I just wanted to do a follow-up on the prime minister we were talking about of Belgium, where
go ahead.
He is also very scared of getting assassinated, possibly, or the Russians have something on him, because he was also talking about how fearful he would be of a Russia without Putin being in charge, or like a destabilized Russia. So that is the kind of talk that I think at this point in time with the war occurs when people have their balls in the vice grip from somebody in the Kremlin.
Lev, did you see? I'm sorry to interrupt. Lev, did you see that there are unexplained drones flying around the airspace of Belgian airports over the last couple of weeks?
That's true. There were some students that were looking at where those drones were and following
Brian,
them.
you get the point, right? Brian, you get the
Yes.
point.
No, I'm just thinking the
It's
same
a
thing was
lovely
happening
airport you have
here.
there. That's a
I
lovely
guess
airport
it's-
you have there. It would be a shame if something ever happened to it, you know?
Well, I guess it's their turn because that was happening here at this time last year, if you might recall.
Yeah.
So
But again, it's like if we think that, well, we should just let them have this piece of land that they really, really want and they're going to leave us alone from now on. I mean, I know, Brian, like I keep having the same conversation over and over again, but it is something we got to think several steps ahead and just be honest and say, okay, what is the likeliest thing that's going to happen if there is, for example, with that peace deal, the gentleman we were speaking to, not a big fan of that peace deal. That deal involves a castration of Ukraine's army, as well as no other than vocal, other than oral, no security guarantees as far as there being actual troops on the ground there that were going to guard these bordering areas. I know they're talking about like a DMZ or something like that, but Russia, at least for now, you know, unless Putin's dead, it's not going to go along with any kind of foreign military presence in those areas.
I don't blame them. And I'll tell you why. Because you still have BlackRock, who's overlapped both administrations, who is involved directly in the peace deals, and they have a major reconstruction project in Ukraine. So it's in their best interest to not have Ukraine's military there, you know, so they have to share their slice of the pie. And let's not forget that the UK has damn near more than half of their government pensions involved in that BlackRock fund that is funding that project, you know. And so, and this is an interesting conversation because, like, you'll never convince me that Ukraine is vital to the national security interests of the United States. I just don't see it. I know this stuff.
I know, but I just like I want to give people who think like you just like counter arguments to that. Again,
totally.
So again, the fact that the Europeans are being this weenie and this pansy-ish and this weak and weakling, and it incentivizes all sorts of people in Russia to say, look, these guys are weenies, and it sends the bad signals to people who think like you. Like, it's true, the Europeans are not being serious. 3.5 years into what is an existential war, they're not fighting like it's World War II. They're not like gearing up. They're like, there's some of the countries next to Russia. Understand, if you're in Lithuania or Latvia or Poland or Romania, you're taking this very seriously. If you're on the other side of the continent, you seem to be more afraid of Russian lawyers than of Russian soldiers, as the Belgian prime minister is. That's not serious. I will make your case for you. The many Europeans have not been serious. The Brits have been, the French have been in negotiations, the Germans have made serious emotional, psychological, economic changes over the last 3.5 years to catch up with reality. What you say about still buying gas and oil, it's gas. The Europeans are no longer buying oil for the most part. Gas is still
China.
problem. That's still yeah. The China are not our friends, right? You're right, but they're not our friends supposedly. The Europeans have diversified away from Russian oil. They're still buying some Russian gas, and that's a fucking catastrophe and a shanda and bad. Part of that is long-term contracts, which are only expiring now, and part of it is that the LNG platforms that they're buying to get off of the Russian gas crack pipe have not just like been built up yet. They know that they're doing bad, and they know they're diversifying, but they can't do it off a pin. Like the Europeans have done a lot, but they haven't done radically enough. There's been cohesion, but there are people in Europe, like the Hungarians, like the Slovenians, who are on the Russian side, at least tacitly, and there are people in Portugal and Spain who couldn't really care less, right? So Europe is a country, 27 countries plus the UK, which is divided between people like Poland, where they're really radically concerned about this, and people like Hungary, who are essentially on the Russian side of things tacitly, and people like Slovenians who don't care and would prefer to be on the Russian side of things, and the Belgians who prefer to be on the Ukrainian side of things, but actually don't like the Russian lawyers and don't want to be killed, and people like the Spanish and Portuguese on the other side of the continent who are like, okay, well, this is not so nice, but we don't care. So to speak of the Europeans as a problem because there's not one Europe. Does that make sense, Brian?
Of course, yeah. And look, I've spent, even through the pandemic, lots of time in Europe, and I was just in Portugal actually this past spring. And you're right, they're big Donald Trump fans down in Porto.
Yeah.
But the the thing that concerns me is this. Is one thing I always took away, especially in countries like Holland, not so much the UK or the Netherlands, and even in Spain, is they're very China friendly, and China is involved economically. They are economic partners with Russia.
Sure.
And they, and then you have the president of France and his husband, his wife, flying to China.
They're very litigious. Bro, that's funny, but they're very litigious. I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Flying to China. Actually, no, I don't, because I don't want to show any support for Candace Owens on anything.
Yeah, fine.
I'm done with her. But the thing is, I see a lot of unspoken Chinese influence going on here. I see a lot of people not wanting to say, and we all know China's involvement in the EU, in the banking system there, especially in Interpol. Okay. And I just see, I think Belgium isn't really that worried, and just my opinion based on nothing, but just based on, zooming out here, I see Europe being more scared of economic attacks from China and even infrastructure attacks from China than I do from seeing them from Russia. Here's an example. Remember the blackout in Spain?
Yeah.
Okay, so preponderance of evidence, but prior to that blackout, which originated in Portugal, and that entire infrastructure is linked to, basically a Chinese system runs all the way from China running that. And so they were in trade deals for pork with Spain, China was, right before that blackout, because China said, we're not going to buy any more U.S. pork. Okay, and China imports a ton of pork from the U.S. So they went to Spain, and then Spain kind of waffled on the deal, said, well, we're not going to give you that good of a price. And then, boom, the lights go out. And then they go back on, and Spain freaks out. And the very next day, China got their price, and they got their trade deal. Now, I'm not saying it was China, but let's say, just for the sake of argument, they're not sure if it was China.
Right.
That would scare the hell out of me if I was Brussels, more so than my fear of any Russian assassins. I'd be scared of a Chinese assassination of my infrastructure.
I'll back you up on that. Actually, part of a reason that they're not giving up this money to Russia, one of the sub-arguments, they're not going to say this openly, but the subtext is Chinese holding of European assets and European bonds in the Chinese central bank, and Chinese investment in Europe, all over Europe, is like, if the Chinese see if they could steal Russian sovereign state bonds, why aren't they going to take ours next time we do something they don't like?
Exactly.
That's the subtext of this. And so, Brian, you and I agree, the Europeans need to man up. They absolutely.
I agree.
So, I mean,
totally
like,
agree.
Totally agree. I mean, like, there's like no daylight between you and me. Like they need there's this joke that we Russia-Ukraine hands, obviously pro-Ukrainian people have been saying about the Germans. We have this joke is that the Germans expedited their security to the Americans. They gave their security to the Americans. They gave their economic security to the Chinese, and they gave their energy security to the Russians, right? And that's not wrong. And that was a 30-year process. We neutered them. We castrated them. By we, I mean the Americans, whatever. Mm-hmm. After World War II, we wanted there not to be a militarized Europe. We wanted NATO to be like American dominated. We wanted there not to be any wars.
But I will say they didn't really fight it.
Yeah, they didn't fight it, and like
it was a good deal.
They had 70 years of war. I mean, like, they had 70 years of peace, and the peace dividend made them weak. And like the difference between Central and Eastern Europeans like me and people in Belgium who are more afraid of Russian lawyers than they are afraid of Russian soldiers is that I've been to war and I've had to evacuate my family. Your guy has been to war. You're a tough guy. Like, there's blue America, which is weenies, and there's red America, which is tough, right? And so structurally speaking, Western Europe is part of blue America. They'd be Democratic Party voters. They'd be Obama people, right? Whereas you and I would be whatever. We'd be Nat Khan. We'd be like Republicans or conservatives, traditionals, whatever. Ukrainians and Poles fight. Ukrainians and Poles are tough guys, right? Ukrainians and Poles are more
Mhm.
aligned with your values and my values
Oh,
than
totally. It's a very working class, agriculturally based in a lot of
100%.
cases, society.
Not a professional managerial class society. These are people with still traditional values, with cultural values, who have historical and recent memory of working hard and fighting, right? You
Mhm.
would like the average person on the street in Kyiv more than you would like the average person off the street in Belgium. That's just the way it is.
Oh no, that's for sure. I was just in Belgium in September. I actually got my first 1 minute on the mic at the EU Parliament.
Great,
Um,
great, man.
but the
But like,
yeah, no, it honestly, like like Brussels is just like the places you can go safely. It's just like a big shopping mall at this point.
I mean, look, like, but Brussels is a weird place in that, like, they, unlike every other wealthy city center in the world, the immigrants are in
Mhm.
the center, and the rich white people are in the periphery. Whereas in London, Switzerland, Paris, New York, everywhere else, it's the rich people who are in the opera house and the immigrants in the periphery, right? Brussels is a weird place in that way. And Brussels, Belgium isn't really even a real country. It's like divided
Mhm.
between two other countries, and is it Dutch? Is it French? Is it the European? Whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like in the South Park movie they sang about Canada. It's not a real country anyway.
yeah, exactly right. Like
Right.
it's post national, it's
Mhm.
post cultural, it's post sovereign, it's post martial virtues, it's
Yeah.
post male. So there's a real divide, Brian, between Western Europeans who are like that and Eastern Europeans who are like more like me and more
Yeah.
like these
Mhm.
guys you meet on the street.
And here's the ironic thing though, because now it seems that the threats that are going to be coming from Russia are targeted towards actually like the based countries,
Right.
far more sooner than they are to these weenies.
Right.
And again, if we're living in reality here and we're seeing what they are, we can't pretend that we live in an alternative reality where all of a sudden they become based. Dealing with this reality, it seems like we cannot rely on these European weenies in a situation where, Hitler decides to go to Czechoslovakia and then keep
I
going.
hear you, but this is here's the problem.
Yeah,
Okay,
so-
let's say we continue to arm Ukraine at these
Okay.
levels. You already said in so many words, Lev, in our earlier conversation, that the reason Ukraine has been able to hold back Russia is because of Western support.
Sure.
Okay, and I think that's inarguable. Given that, Russia doesn't seem like they're going to, I don't think they're going to agree to a peace deal because they don't seem to be part of those negotiations, from everything I'm reading.
Well, they are part of the negotiation which have Kushner and Witkoff, with Witkoff being given, and Vlad, you can confirm this, I believe, given the letter written in a translated, like a Google Translate version of like Soviet style writing. So in that sense, they're very much a part of the actual peace deal that's being presented. So I disagree with you there, Brian. Like,
yeah, I mean, there were like 3 tracks. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's very sloppy and like
Fair enough.
it's sloppy and very Trumpy in that like they throw shit at
Right.
the wall and
Well,
see what happens. But there's
I'm a big Trump fan, so I'm not gonna.
I'm in Trump. I'm on Trump's side on this. I'm Trump's side on everything except this. On everything except this, I'm on Trump's side.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really
Saying that, like they're sloppy sometimes is what I'm
right.
saying.
But what I was getting at though was, so let's say that we continue to dump stuff down there, and I'm definitely against that, into Ukraine, and then Ukraine loses anyways. So now we got another problem, right? We have an emboldened Russia with a ton of new arms that we gave Ukraine. Okay. Just like when Biden intentionally left all those weapons for the Taliban,
Right.
we wouldn't intentionally leave them. But let's face the facts. We know in 2022, almost half of those arms ended up on the European black market, according to the Financial Times reporting on that.
I mean, that stuff's been litigated and all that. I don't believe that it was happening. Yeah, I get it. But
that we'll never know the real numbers. We don't know their sources. But the point is, we do know that after giving tens of billions of dollars, within weeks, the Ukrainians are saying, hey, we're out of bullets. Okay. And that's not the fault of the Ukrainians. As a former military guy, working especially it reminded me of the Philippines, right? By the time aid or money comes from the northern province and
Yes.
trickles all the way down to Mindanao in the south, there's not much left. And it seems to me that as people stuck their hands in that pot, okay, there was not much left for the front lines. And so to
Brian,
me, it's like
I mean, there was skimming, Brian, and I'm just I get it.
they're the ones that said they ran out of bullets, man.
Like,
We
so,
gave
like,
them
it's not
500
bullets,
million
it's
bullets at that
not
time.
bullets, man. It's shells. It's like, first of all, it's
No, this was actually bullets. We gave them 500 million rounds. Okay.
It's industrial level warfare of a kind the West has not seen since World War II.
I have the list right in front of me, and I agree with you. But the point is, first of all, it seems like it's just, it just seems like something that we will never get out of because, and I agree with you, if the real threat to democracy is not only an aggressive, let's say for the sake of argument, let's say I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let's say the real threat to democracy is a aggressive Russia that wants to take over the world or the Western world. It seems like, based on what you guys are saying, an equal threat is the spinelessness of Western Europe.
I agree with that. I mean, I believe in supporting Ukraine. I also believe in the Trump doctrine, absolutely well elucidated in the NSC paper, of getting the Europeans to stand up. And
so he's basically, he sees that threat too. Would you agree with that?
I mean, he does, and that is the Democrat. That is the demotic Republican Party and conservative NatCon tradition, and that is something I believe in, and the Europeans should stand up and they should get serious. But totally destroying the Ukrainians for the fault line of European weenies or Western European weenies or the Belgians is not, like, it's not great. One, it's not going to work. Two, and three. I think there's a misconception. I think you're an extraordinarily smart guy, and I respect you immensely and what you're saying and your mind. But there is a misconception. A lot of what we're giving is not money. A lot of it is decommissioned older American military tech, which we give them, and we replenish through U.S. congressional spending on our own military. A lot of what we're giving up is older American stuff that we take out of older stock, and we give it to them, and then we have Congress buy up newer stuff. So a lot of it is actually a giveaway to America.
Yep.
It's
Abrams tanks and stuff like that. I got it.
A lot of it, like 3/4 of what we're giving, I think you know very well, isn't cash or like even just giving support to the ministries to pay civil society or civil servants pensions or whatever, so that the state doesn't.
Well, no, we allocated $39 billion through USAID for that purpose.
We did, and now we're making the IMF and the Europeans take over that, and that's fine.
Why is anyone taking over that, though? That's the thing.
Because the Ukrainian economy, the tax base is down 92% since the start of war. There is no Ukrainian economy without help. You understand that?
Right, but how are you going to? I mean, you're talking about municipalities and government offices. That doesn't build an economy.
Well, I mean, like the people have to provide social services to Babushka's old people, and the people who go to work still provide social services, and they get their pay, and they go to a restaurant and they buy lunch, right? So
that looks like Lithuania. But what I'm saying is that, and sorry to cut you off, but
yeah, sure, go ahead.
The way that always works, okay, and this is why I'm so against socialized anything. It never works out the way people want. People never pick themselves up by the bootstraps and take over. Look at the Native American reservations in the United States. Go to Shakopee in Minnesota.
I've never been. I have no experience. I'm barely American that way.
But it's as you're American. Are you a dual citizen? Is that what it is?
I'm very complicated. But I was born in Central Asia to Ukrainian Jews who fled Ukraine, and I was living in Moscow while we were waiting for our exit visas to Russia. I left in 91. I had a Russian passport, which I inherited from my father. I burned it live on television. I'm a Ukrainian nationalist. I'm a Romanian, whatever. I'm a European, Russian, American triple citizen. But my primary loyalty is to the United States of America. That's who pulls me out of situations. I burned my Russian passport. I'm a Ukrainian nationalist, and I'm an American. I have an American passport. I live here. I pay taxes here.
Good enough for me, man.
Fine, go ahead.
Even if you weren't, that's good enough for me. We're having a good conversation.
Thanks. I grew up here. My primary loyalty is to the United States. There you go.
But are you Red Sox fan or a Yankees fan? That's
You know,
the important question.
I'm not really into sports, man. I grew up. I grew
Yeah.
up.
I'm not into baseball, dude. I'm just,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
I live in Brooklyn and I live in Salem, so I'm, you know, I'm
Okay,
as
yeah.
complicated as you in a different way.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
So, okay, lost my train of thought. Where were we?
Please
What
go
were
ahead.
we talking about?
So
Dual
we were
citizen
talking.
money.
Yeah, so when it
Yeah.
comes to the
Right.
war right now, one question
So-
that I have before, and I'm sorry to cut you off, before we keep going, when it does come to Russia going deeper into Ukraine, and maybe we can pick this up a little bit later, but I don't want us to forget, like, what are the steps ahead in terms of Ukraine winning, and in terms of, like you said, Brian, the possible scenario where Ukraine loses and now all of a sudden Russia's got all these weapons that it got from the United States. That's the nightmare scenario that you're pointing out here that you don't want America to get into, right?
And I don't want boots on the ground, plain and simple.
No, I don't want that either. No one ever asked for that. No, they should that. There should not be any American boots on the ground.
But one of
Yeah.
one of the biggest things
Yes.
that was shocking to most Americans, you know, look, I would even say to the left as well.
Yes.
Maybe not online, but you know, I'm in the Boston metro and the New York City area. That's all
Right.
left. And so to the people on the street, we're shocked when we were rebuilding or giving money for pensions, for their infrastructure, for their bureaucratic offices, for their municipality offices. And look, man, you live in New York. New York's right now a shithole. And
It's not so nice. I grew up here. It's not so nice now.
it's not so nice. And even, you know, Salem, which is kind of like an upper working class type of neighborhood,
Yeah.
it's like things are closed except for 3 days a week. And it's
Yeah.
so the argument there is, why would we be building someone else's border and their infrastructure when ours is so far behind what it should be? Our bridges are collapsing.
So,
Our
first of all,
roads are
we're not taking
collapsing.
part. I'm sorry to interrupt. We're not taking good care of Americans. We're not.
Right.
This country has very serious issues. We agree on that. What the answer to that issue is different. I don't even know how to. I don't know how to fix America. But you know,
No, it's not about how to fix America, but what this does is this brings up the question of, you know, these politicians who are doing this under Biden, and there's still a lot of them doing it, you know, in the Trump administration, rhinos, the Republicans in name only, and a lot of the Democrats, of course, are still pushing to even reopen USAID. And so what question that brings up with most Americans is, wait a minute, they know our economy needs a lot of fixing. They know we need this money. So why are they sending it overseas? Why isn't this war over? What's happening with that money? And whether nothing's happening with it or not, you could see that is, you know, if for those who want Ukraine supported in America, that is the biggest way to erode it, because it's easy to fund a war. Look at look at Desert Storm, Desert Shield, right?
Right.
It's easy to get behind that. Okay,
Right.
when the economy is booming.
Right.
But when we can't even find enough bus drivers in upper middle class neighborhoods to get our kids to school,
Look, America has a lot.
it smells like rafts to most Americans.
I get that, but we're still a $28 trillion economy. We're still the richest people in the world. These are small sums in terms of what we can do in exchange for how bad our security problems would be if we let Russia dominate Europe. I mean, like,
How come the security problems only started? I mean, they really started. They started 6 months almost to the day after Biden shut down the ATM machine that was Afghanistan, and then all of a sudden, magically,
I wrote an article in Foreign Policy magazine in the summer of 2021 was saying Kyiv is terrified they're next. Actually, withdrawing from Afghanistan and that dumb and
but we weren't in Kyiv, and you know when
I know
Afghanistan fell.
No. I wrote an article in the summer of 2021, August 2021. I can send you that piece in Foreign Policy magazine, correctly predicting that this makes the war in Ukraine all the more likely because the Russians see how stupidly and incompetently we pulled out of Afghanistan. The Biden administration, in many ways, created this war by creating the incentives for the Russians to start it, by having a man who was basically a zombie, both physically and mentally, basically a corpse running the country. Putin saw that his opponent was basically a dead man. He was no longer a living, breathing human being. He was physically and emotionally and psychologically and everything out. I think we agree on this, right? And
We do, but I mean, let's not take away the fact that, with the investigations underway about the auto pen, someone was running the country.
yeah,
And
someone was
competent.
running the country, and
I'm sure Putin and Susan Rice might not get along, but it does seem like there's a lot of complicity there and a lot of planning.
Okay, look, I don't vote for those guys. I don't like them. Put them all in
Mhm.
jail. I couldn't care less. They're not my people. Fine.
Right.
I'm not a Biden guy. I've never
No,
voted.
I don't
for
think you are.
Biden.
That's
Whatever. The point is this: the Biden administration created this war, one, by incentivizing Putin to smell weakness in the water. Like, he's a shark, he sees blood in the water. We incentivized him to start this war. Then Biden's mixed messaging. Then Biden pulls out of Afghanistan, shows that we're weaklings, we're isolationists in a very completely stupid way. We're decreasing our footprint without doing it even in a smart way, right? We could have just kept you could have kept Kabul airport as to
we should definitely talk about that another
Right.
time. I've gone deep on that. That was by design.
Yeah, whatever. The Biden administration were terrible, and even within their defeatist, isolationist policy, they did it in the most stupid possible way, thus encouraging revisionist opponents to take a nip at our heels, right? And then they say no war, and then Biden gaffes and saying, well, of course Putin has to take something, thus encouraging fervor, and then not giving enough weapons to deter the Russians. Like, if you'd only given enough weapons in December 21, January 22, in order to say to the Russians, well, you're going to lose a lot of men. And so as to decrease the chance of invasion by making Putin recalculate the odds of it going all tits up, which he calculated obviously very badly because of mixed messaging. So all around, from incentivizing to not deterring to not giving enough weapons to keeping the Ukrainians from winning in 22 and 23, the Biden administration was a complete catastrophe on this, right?
Well, and I think you're leaving out what we talked about earlier. It seems like the bigger incentive, let's say we agree on Putin's intentions, okay, for the sake of argument.
Sure.
Based on what you said earlier, the biggest incentive seems to be that you have a weak Europe unwilling to commit to defense and unwilling to give up their addiction to Russian natural gas.
Well, they also lived in like a Harry Potter folk tale fantasia of
I know, man.
War.
Get me started. I was just in what is it?
They live in delusions, man. It's very difficult.
I was in Vilnius and I was horrified because
Why?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because this is I think February this past year, like at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And I'm walking around and what I noticed was everyone's on the street with their high-end, baby strollers. There's a ton of babies in Vilnius.
Good.
And they're all dressed like little stuffed animals in like chic designer clothing. Everything's expensive. Everyone's sipping coffee. No one's working. And when I asked our host, who was at the U.S. State Department, I said, what is the main economy here, at least in this metro area of the city? And he said, NGOs, all funded by USAID. And so, right? Yes. And so when I saw that, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, Americans will work 2 jobs in the hopes that they can scrape together a week's worth of money to spend 3 days in Vilnius sipping coffee, and these people are living on our money. And so, there's not even a point to that. I'm just saying,
like Vilnius, the Balkans, not the Balkans, the Baltics are a particular story of the European Union putting money in order to get these places which were screwed up and had small populations after what Russians.
But here's where I was really upset. Okay, this is serious. As a big fan of Captain Ramius in Hunt for Red October, I thought the Lithuanians were going to be totally badass. Just saying.
The ones who fight are.
Oh no, I know they are. That was a joke about little Tom Clancy humor there. So.
But by the way, Brian, before when we were talking about the inevitability perhaps of Russia gaining Ukraine, and then I was making the point, well, it wants to continue on, but you said that you did not see signs of Putin expressing it as such. There was something recent which I would
No. I said I didn't see signs of him wanting to take all of Europe.
All of Europe. Okay, so when we say all of Europe, it's not as much of a difference to me, at least, whether we're talking all of Europe or half of Europe or a quarter of Europe. A
Yeah, he
quarter of
wants to
Europe is
dominate.
still,
He wants to dominate the European continent, and
yes.
the
I
crazy.
would argue that he does. I mean, he could shut off their lights anytime he wants.
Well, just to break this down, this is important. So there was that press conference in New Delhi. You guys remember him and
Yes.
Modi giving him Bhagavad
Yes,
Gita
yes,
and all
yes.
that. So
Yeah.
Putin said during that press conference that the liberation of Donbass and Novorossiya is inevitable, and
Right.
that is a very key line because Novorossiya. Brian, are you familiar with that term, Novorossiya?
New
I'm
Russia.
guessing New Russia.
New
Yes.
Russia, but specifically, it's not like a legal term. It's a Tsarist era imperial concept, which doesn't really have any fixed borders. It's
But
more of this.
it's the south of the Black Sea Basin. It's like
Yeah.
Odessa, Nikolaev, all the way up to Moldova. He means the entire strip of the
So
Ukrainian coast.
he wants a new USSR, basically, is what you're saying.
No, even more
Well,
so.
what's
the
a new
new
Russian
Russia-
empire?
Yeah.
Not a
So-
USSR, a Russian empire.
So if he's already admitted to this publicly, and this isn't
Yeah.
even the first time, like all of this has been alluded to before,
And
time
yeah,
and
I've
time
heard
guess
this.
who
again.
was in the Russian Empire? Finland,
Yeah.
the Grand Duchy of Finland, the Grand Duchy of Poland,
Yeah.
the chunks of what is now Lithuania, chunks of what is
So
now.
if
you understand?
if we are mature about this and we, let's say, coldly admit that yes, the United States, it doesn't have money, doesn't have weapons, we're going to have to, guys, unfortunately, give up Ukraine, and then according to what Putin wants and according to the Europeans being weenies, it's also likely that Russia is going to start acquiring these places that Putin himself says he wants to acquire. If that's the reality we're going to be living in, then my question for Brian and also Vlad is,
Yes.
what is going to be the state of the United States in this new future where Russia is going to have all of this? What does that also mean for China's expansion? And what does that mean for the actual citizens living in the United States? At what point does this stop being just this border dispute issue in Ukraine or whatever and starts expanding to something of that level? What does that mean for national security and for the lives of the Americans?
Go ahead, Vlad. You can start.
I'm going to make a maximalist version of this. I'm going to make a very quick maximalist version of this. I see Ukraine and I see the European Union and I see Europe, which is fundamentally I'm going to get a bunch of liberal retards calling me
I mean,
racist.
who cares anymore, right?
Yeah, who cares anymore? But let's say this is our continent. America is a promulgation of Europe. The founders of America were Europeans. Greek civilization, Hebrew civilization, Roman Empire, the Enlightenment, Dutch, British industry, the Italian Risorgimento, the Dutch culture, the Dutch painting, Dutch capitalism, Germanic Protestantism. This is our patrimony. We are European civilization. We really are. Sorry for the boomer slop of the Romans to European Greece. We really do have to protect our civilization. This does not map onto whiteness or whatever fucking retarded academic nonsense some lefty fuck will accuse me of, even though I'm like a 90s New York liberal. This is our civilization. My parents are from there. My grandparents are from there. I care about it. I lived in France for a long time. This is our culture. The Anglos and the French and the Germans built America. This is our civilization. We care about it. We care about it and should care about it more than we should care about Latin America or parts of Africa or Southeast Asia. And I think a guy named O'Shea should agree with that, no?
I agree with it, except for the South China Sea.
Okay, fine.
I think that's
I'm throwing concepts around, but you get the point.
No, I totally agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
Look, let me just take a shot at this. In terms of national security, I would just let me reset the premise a little bit. I do believe that Russia does not make a move without China's okay. Okay, based on the way their treaties are, based on the fact that China has taken over most of Siberia since early 90s through their timber harvesting. And
we'll have opinions on that, but go ahead. Yes.
And they're also, I think, look, China right now, the Belt and Road extends to 69% of every country in the world.
Sure.
Don't forget that Spain called Palestine a state only after they joined the Belt and Road 3 weeks later. They're like, oh yeah, they're a state.
Yeah.
So, and that's how they control it. But that's beside the point is, when we're talking about, and I hear what you're saying, Lev, about, and I understand where your argument's coming from about why you feel that, the line has to be drawn in Ukraine. And maybe that's so. But is this the right way to do it? Because what I am seeing here is, if you put a strain on the Russian-Chinese relationship, you can very, in a non-kinetic fashion, engage in our own version of unrestricted warfare, which the Chinese are fond of saying, where we put the pain on China, and then we demand they put the pain on Russia. And then also in terms of like arming, I mean, just geographically looking at Ukraine,
Right.
it's geographically a really almost impossible place to defend. Why not woo those countries like Hungary and those border countries that could go either way? And you were saying they're leaning towards Russia. Yeah, I mean, based on what you guys said, I kind of don't blame them if the Europeans in the West are not going to have their back. They're not sure what the U.S. is going to do, president to president. Of course, they're going to go with the larger, bully in the neighborhood. So what I'm saying is, why not woo those countries to recreate that border, instead of putting all of our eggs into the basket of Ukraine?
Just one quick comment before Vlad responds.
Before I
This
go
is
off
like,
like
before he goes all out.
Yeah.
For me, Brian, it's like the kind-hearted girlfriend of her abusive ex-boyfriend saying, "I can fix him. I know he's good on the inside."
There's a Russian ballerina I'm trying to fix.
No,
right
I'm not saying changing Russia at all.
Well,
Lev,
no,
should I fix the Russian ballerina?
You are, yes, you should, but you are saying that by default, because by changing Russia from the inside, you would change its complete disrespect.
I'm not changing Russia from the inside.
No. I'm just saying that only by changing Russia from the inside, would you change its view of the West in general in terms of it ever siding with the West against China. So fixing would imply that you
I'm not advocating turning Russia against China. That's not what I'm saying.
No? Okay, then I'm
confused.
confused.
A lot of guys who think like you, who are less sophisticated than you, these are fundamentally people that I'm aligned with, and I just wish they knew a little bit more about China and Russia. They think that you could do a reverse Kissinger and pull the Chinese and Russians apart, and that's just, it seems to me, completely not going to happen.
No, I'm not saying diplomatically pull them apart. I'm saying, look, let's face the facts. What does China listen to more than bullets? They listen to money. Okay. I mean, they have a god of money. They have cats that wave to wave money in. If you put a strain on their, and it's very easy, just stop their container ships and not let them come into port, either in Port Elizabeth or Port of LA or Port of Kalama.
Yeah.
What I am saying, and do that for 6 months, you can literally crash your economy. So what I'm saying is that kind of threat right there, and we just say, hey, look, I don't care if your guys, you're still going to be with your abusive boyfriend, Russian boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But we don't want you to support them anymore in any of their infrastructure projects whatsoever. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying take a more Kissinger was more, and look, I mean, Kissinger kind of was a bit of a quite a big Chinese cheerleader. I think,
like
I think late version of Kissinger is what Jeffrey Sachs is aiming to be.
Right.
But what I am saying,
incidentally, I was at several Jewish fundraisers and events in New York where they put up Henry.
Are you Jewish?
I am, absolutely. I'm a Jew and a Zionist. Yeah, I'm a Jew and a Zionist, bro. Lovely. Are you? Come on.
My wife is. But I went to Chabad last night and did some Torah study on the origins of Hanukkah, and I love it.
Wait, Vlad, you know Brian's wife, right?
Who's Brian's wife? Do I?
Oh, Naomi Wolf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I love Irish Jewish families. Nothing better. Nothing.
Yeah,
better.
you should come to Crown Heights sometime and go to Chabad with us.
I would love that, man. I'd love that. I was just at a Rebbe Tversky's wedding in Borough Park last night.
Oh wow, good for you.
Let me just say to you, my man, about just a little funny tangent about him selling his ass. He was from the age of 90 to 100. He was basically out of it, and there were a lot of people around Kessinger Associates who were just using his name and elder abusing him into into like doing things that, like, I think it was a Biden situation from like the age of 90 to the age of 100. And I was at a Jewish fundraiser 3-4 years ago, right before the war, with the head of I was sitting next to the head of the Ukrainian Jews, Mr. I won't say his name, and I turn to him when they put Henry Kissinger up there, and he's just like reading off of this thing, off this paper that they made him like read off of, and he turns to me and says, "This is elder abuse." Like, if the Henry Kissinger associates were making him read off of whatever piece of paper in front of him, for the last 10 years, his books were written probably by Chinese lobbyists.
If you ever want to do a joint investigation and put a book out about that, that would be a hell of a story, because these are the kind of, and that's what I love about Lev's show. And everyone make sure you follow and share and give Lev big love. But and Vlad as well. But you know, these are the kind of things that you only find on discussions like this. Like, I didn't know that. It makes sense now that you mention it, because he was pretty damn old. He didn't make a lot of sense in those last years. But yeah, using an influential guy like that to get their China policy the way they want it to 100%. Go. That's very
I saw this with my own eyes. Just going through. I saw him give free speeches over Zoom, or they just wheeled him out, literally wheeled him out, put a piece of paper in front of him, and he read off this piece of paper in a way that a child would. And literally, your Ukrainian elites will turn to me and say, "This is elder abuse. What the hell is this?" Like, I've seen with my own eyes.
Now,
I swear to God, my man.
Okay, going back to what we were talking about before, when it does come to this question of wrestling Russia away from China somehow, Brian, in your opinion, what would get Russia to change their tune when it comes to China versus America?
Well, I've always said, if you want to fight monsters, find a bigger monster. Okay. And you're not going to turn China and Russia against each other ever. But let's not forget, Russia is kind of in an abusive relationship with China. I'm sure they'd rather be.
They're now the junior partner. 10 years ago, they were not. This war is making them the junior partner.
Exactly. And they've always been, at a minimum, competitors in who could be the best communist country. So the thing is, it's like, you make it so painful for China, because at the end of the day, China's goal, the 2049 China dream, is to be the global hegemon.
Sure.
So in the end, it's kind of like, what was there can be only one. What was that? The
Highlander.
Thank you. Anyone aligned with China knows that it's temporary at best. So you make it so painful for China economically, because that's what hurts them the most, that they have to, you say, hey, tell you what, I'm going to twist your arm until you punch Russia in the jimmy, and you're going to laugh while you do it, and that's the thing.
We agree with that analysis. I agree with you. They have a fundamental problem, and the revisionist alliance, like the Venezuela, North Korea,
it's a problem all over the world.
China thing, we have to push back against these people. Like, we agree on that. We just don't agree on how to do it.
So what would happen? Well, I'm just curious from Vlad's perspective. What would happen if we were to adopt what Brian said right now, push on China in order for China to then push against Russia, and how would Russia react from that? And how would that change what's going on?
They're not going to push back on Russia. But like the Chinese are happy that this is happening. They're weakening the Europeans. They're seeing how far the Americans can go. They're weakening and taking over the Russians. Putin is putting out more and more IOUs in terms of economic deals, in terms of like sweetheart deals to the Chinese, in terms of resource deals. He's selling the crown jewels of Russian state security and giving them IOUs for future asks and future deals in exchange for support for this war, for currency support, for backstopping support, for economic support, for political support in international organizations. So Putin has to pay ever higher costs to the Chinese. Often these are just blank checks that he gives them. They're like the Chinese, okay, I'll accept this blank check. May come in 2 or 5 years, or maybe never, but I may ask for you for something. That Putin says yes, right? And so the Russians are becoming ever more of a junior partner in this in this now what they call the friendship without borders. What was it? What is the new? What is the new structural way they call it? The relationship with no boundaries, or what was it? The new.
I forget when they were shaking hands to talk about the new world order and all that.
Yeah. So there would the Chinese asked in February of 22 that they don't start the invasion while the Chinese Olympic Games were going on. They said, please don't put on your show until our show's over. Don't fucking take away attention from our Olympic Games. The Russians put off the invasion for weeks because the Chinese said, please don't take, like, we've been spent 10 years on these Olympic Games. Don't screw it up for us by starting an alternative show that'll take away attention away from us. And they said, look, we really don't want you to do this. This is a bad idea. Please don't do this. But if you really have to do this, like, do it right, and like don't make costs for us. Don't use nuclear weapons. If you really think you can get this over with, fine. The Chinese don't want their entire northern hegemonic border being another North Korea, structurally speaking, right? They don't. They want the Russians to limp out of this as quasi winners, but not total winners. Neither do they want the Russia to collapse. They really don't want a Russia that is a failed state with 10.
No, they got like 245 billion in trade.
Yeah, and neither do they want 12 little Russias with loose nukes and Islamist uprisings on their border. No one wants that shit, right? So the Chinese want all sorts of things to happen in terms of prolonging this conflict, bleeding the Russians, making the Russians more and more ad hoc to them.
And they also want us in a three-front war.
100%. They want to see if they can use the Taiwan card in the middle of this. They want to see if they can scare the Taiwanese into knowing that there's no porcupine thing like the Ukrainians are telling them that they can have. The Chinese love this. So I just don't see how you're going to pull the Chinese-Russian alliance apart. I just don't see it.
Well, I think we might be seeing an attempt at that now, and that's putting that financial pressure on China. Maybe not for this purpose, but let's face the facts. The oil tanker that was seized in Venezuela,
right?
We have scant news on it. It could have been a drug ship. I mean, the South Americans, they had a damn drug submarine. I mean, they're very creative with these things. But, if it is a oil, ship and reporting and saying that it was heading to China with that oil, okay, you're not only putting a strain on China, you're putting a strain on OPEC, which then in turn puts a strain on China.
Right.
So I think you might be seeing that now. Look, I think our huge military action in Venezuela is for fentanyl? No, because it's
not. Obviously not.
But I think the Venezuelans were stupid in allowing us to have that excuse, because we are getting squeezed out of OPEC. They are trying to go to the petro yuan with China's urging and get out of the petrodollar. And, Venezuela is part of OPEC. So it's like, and they also have the crude that's made in Venezuela is the crude we can refine. We can't refine any other crude except for that crude that comes from Venezuela.
Sure.
Okay. So that puts a strain right there. This is an oil race right now. And if you have some leverage points on China, it can directly affect Russia if you have those levers in place. And we almost had them, and then they were given right back to China by Biden.
I agree. Like, screw those people. But I'm not even against putting pressure on the Venezuelans. I'm not against it. I'm Monroe Doctor in all way. It's fine. But just also, please understand that we can't give up a sector in Europe in exchange for taking a sector in Venezuela in this global war. Ultimately.
Well, wait. We are not giving up a sector. That's the thing. And it's not our sector to begin with. So that kind of language says that then Ukraine, de facto was a part of NATO.
It was not, but it was part of it. Right. It's very important to European security. It's extraordinarily important to European security. It's extraordinarily important to European security, to Turkish security.
So again, this is why I go back to the question that I asked you guys originally, which was, let's not talk about things now. let's talk about the scenario where Novorossiya becomes a reality because of the factors that we discussed previously. And in that scenario, what exactly happens to the more, let's say, isolationist United States when Europe now has, a pretty big chunk of it that's controlled by Russia? So again, how does China respond in that scenario? And how does the rest of Europe respond in that scenario? And what happens to the American people in that specific scenario?
I'll let Brian answer that, but I want to clarify that what we're talking about is Russia taking over the three Black Sea ports of Odessa. There being no more exports of Ukrainian grain through the Black Sea, and the Black Sea becoming essentially a Russian lake with confrontations more likely between Turks and the Russians.
Just as a start, by the way, nobody says that Russia is all of a sudden going to think, you know what, guys, we've got enough. Let's pack it up. Just so we're aware in this conversation, it's still opening up the opportunity to keep going even further after that. But just to start there,
I'm listening. I'm just checking on. I got to get my kid at some point. So
we can wrap up in 13 minutes.
We're going to wrap up soon. But this is a very important point. So I really want to concentrate on this particular scenario. Like you said before, Russia controlling the Black Sea region, having the ability to go forward. So again, in that scenario, with Russia having the ability to go forward, what happens in Europe? The rest of Europe that's not controlled by Russia at this point, what happens to the United States in terms of how does all of this from that point affect the American people?
Brian?
Well, I would say this. How much do we really need Europe at this point? I mean, what are they doing for the United States? What I see happening is you have basically three superpowers. And is that a bad thing? When we had two superpowers, we had a lot less war. We had no terrorism. Like, I remember I entered the military in 1992.
Right.
And when I was doing a project in my intel classes when I was in the Army on terrorism, they were treating me like I was, Agent Mulder, down in the X-Files. Like, so I'm not saying I want to return to the Cold War, but there is something to be said about having large centers of power, kind of like big street gangs, managing their sectors.
Would you prefer that what's happening right now with Mamdani, imagine that in a global setting where right now Mamdani's appointing all these thugs into
I would say you kind of
power.
got that in a lot of places in Europe right now. Look at what's happening in the UK. Look what happens. Like in the Netherlands, you can't even own a baseball bat because it's a weapon.
Yeah.
I would say that's happening
all that stuff
now.
has to be taken care of. But if we're talking about exactly what Russia's doing and what life is like under Russia, as opposed to even under Sadiq Khan, because like a lot of these situations are really horrible. What's happening in England right now. But I am curious, Vlad, like when it comes to that big comparison of people who are, I know friends who are leaving the UK right now for Japan because they have just had it. And right now they are about to I think it was Tony Blair who wants to bring in the first Muslim female prime minister to the UK. So if that's the future the UK is looking at right now, I get Brian's points. Like, well, why should we care if these places are going to be owned by Russia as opposed to by the Islamists? I would say that the Islamists, at least, they're kind of like one and the same, where I would rate them with Russia. But as far as what Russia is able to do from there on in terms of not just Russia by itself, but Russia being still the junior partner, with maybe a little bit more weight now to China, what ends up happening to the United States as far as the muscle that's able to be exerted on American politicians in this newly isolationist United States from a much more significant superpower combination of Russia and China. Think of Fang Fang. You remember Fang Fang Bang Bang? She was with that politician. I don't remember his name right now.
Swalwell.
Swallowwell. Yeah, the Chinese spy.
I know his chief of staff.
Yeah, I met him at a junket in Ukraine. He was just like hanging around Ukraine and like.
that yellow fever didn't stop him from getting out of bed, apparently. But anyway, when it comes to
Yeah.
a scenario that we're seeing is so obviously happening with Chinese infiltrators being able to buy off American politicians or create puppets out of these American politicians. Imagine, Brian, a scenario where it could get much worse, way worse, when you
get worse,
have this
bro.
combination of these two superpowers, Russia and China, having way more of Europe now, and
Be afraid, bro.
America
Well-
hedgehogging itself into isolationist mode. You
I-
think that America's going to survive that long term, man?
I think
doubt it.
that presupposes there's not a third party we're not talking about, and that is the global caliphate that Turkey is trying to bring into bear. If you've looked at the increase in military spending Turkey's been doing in the last 5 years, it should scare the hell out of you. And I don't think they're going to let the Black Sea go completely to the Russians in that scenario. You also see literal takeovers of European governments by Muslims, primarily orchestrated by the Muslim Brotherhood, which is very alive and well.
Which governments? Like where?
The UK.
I mean,
Okay.
like it's marginal at this point. I mean, like I would. Okay, continue on. I would.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
I wouldn't say it's marginal. I mean, I'm talking, you know, most
I'm
of
on
my
Brian's
friends in
side
the UK.
over here. Dar
It's-
al-Islam. It's not
Yeah, I
good.
mean, the fact that the courts are not even, I mean, look, I'm very good friends with, you know, not Tommy Robinson himself, but like Lawrence Fox and a lot of these people over there. We were
Right.
just there. Peter, who runs Hearts of Oak, he's there now. We met
Right.
him this past spring. No, it's not good. And what I'm seeing when I see the pattern of what's happening with this global Islamic rush, you know, I want to believe that it's just the Chinese using, you know, Islam as a club like they've done in the past. But what we are seeing is we are seeing a major push to push. I don't even want to say radical Islam. I think that's just to scare people. I just see like this caliphate takeover.
Yeah.
And what's
yeah,
happening,
It's not radical Islam. It's just Islam.
and what they're doing is they're doing something called
socialism. It's like socialism plus
and Islam and
Islamism light.
yeah, Islam and communism marry up well. They're both decentralized, supposedly, and
Yeah.
but you know, and the Muslim Brotherhood calls this civilizational jihad.
Mhm.
Take over the schools, take over the churches, take over the institutions. We're seeing that happen. Okay, and with the help of, you know, these stupid American, in one case Russian-backed entities such as the the American Communist Party, founded by Jackson Hinkle and Haz el-Din.
Yeah.
Those people are terrible. Those people are terrible.
Oh, they're horrible.
These are
Oh,
horrible
absolutely.
people. If
You know,
I-
Haz el-Din came from the Democratic Socialists of America.
that
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me. But by the way,
Yeah.
if I was a communist apparatchik and a NKVD political commissar like my great grandfather, I would have these people shot. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
Yeah,
in,
but
in,
they're
in Minecraft. But here's the thing. The reason why I'm bringing this screenshot up right now, which I believe you guys are seeing, where it says, Putin, those guilty of burning the Quran will serve sentence in Russia's Muslim regions. So the idea that it's like this competition between, and maybe it is right now in terms of Turkey, but if we're looking at the Ummah, the Dar al-Islam, House of Islam versus the Western House of War, Russia has been severely Islamized when it comes to the
It hasn't
populations
been
of
severe-
Muslims.
it
I
hasn't-
don't think that's true.
That's
I don't
true.
think it's
If we're
true,
talking
Lev.
about Moscow,
It has 20% of a population, always has, of the Russian Empire being Muslim.
okay,
It has it's only 80% European descent. or
yeah, who
Christian.
are being brought into the big cities and they could do whatever they want.
But
It's
it's
not
just-
a matter of population; it's a matter of how much they can get away with and how much
Wait, what
people
was
like
your-
Vladimir Putin
Yeah, go ahead.
are making them get away with. You know,
Yeah.
that's the key right here. Because
Right.
if the strong horse are the Muslim people who are allowed to run roughshod over people in the West, then what you're talking about, Brian, as far as the infiltration of the Muslim Brotherhood into these various sectors, I completely agree with you. This is a problem. I'm not seeing the expansion of Russia as being any kind of counter to what you're talking about, though. I see it being the same third worldist, and Vlad, you use the term third worldist, right? Like-
Germondialism, I use it absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
Third
I see
worldism,
this,
yes.
I see this as being a part of the exact same third worldism that wants to take as much of the world as possible away from the kind of values. that
Ilhan
we
Omar. Ilhan Omar is the American manifestation.
Yeah.
Third
No,
world.
The whole squad is actually DSA, Democratic Socialists of America.
100%. Ilhan Omar is an immigrant, a political Islamist, and a commie and anti-American. That is tiers
Totally.
mondial. That is French philosophy, 1970s style, imported through. Like, we don't need to talk about the intellectual history, but that's what we're against, right?
Well, Vlad, I'd like your thoughts on what I disagree with you respectfully, Lev, about the Islamification of Russia. What do you think of that, Vlad?
I disagree with also. I think just like the Russia's not being Islamified. It's just that Putin has a multiracial, multilingual, multi-ethnic, multi-religious empire that he's running, like the Russian Empire before it, like the Soviet Union, although they got rid of Islam and religion and liberalism with a super ideology, it was communism. Putinism as a super supremacist ideological base for ruling a rump state of the Russian Empire has 20% of its population being Muslims. In fact, I don't know if you know this. What do you think the primary name is in the Russian military hospital in Rostov?
Muhammad.
It's Muhammad. So
that's actually the #1 name in the world.
It's also it's the #1 name of wounded Russian servicemen in Rostov, evacuated out of a Ukrainian war zone. So
that is vile. You know what they're doing.
Of course I do.
They're just sending the Muslims into the meat grinder first.
Of course, probably 40% or 50% of the Russian casualties are. I mean, these regions are being depopulated of young men. Like the Russians do not want middle-class Russians in St. Petersburg and Moscow to fight. So where do they do the primary recruitments? It's in Siberia and these poor regions, and they conscript the hell out of these Muslim majority regions, right? Like you can get the poor little Mohammeds from Trans-Baikal region to go fight, and then you get rid of 3 problems all at once, right? Absolutely fucking vile, despicable. These people are horrible. Like, but and yet, so when Putin says that you have a law to not burn Qurans,
well, what was the source of that, by the way?
I'm going to find the paper.
I'm big on sources because honestly, one thing that Naomi taught me a long time ago, because she was syndicated in, everything, The Guardian. She, the trick of the media is get the headline out, get the subscriptions and the clicks, do a very quiet retraction 3 weeks later.
Sure.
Okay, so, I mean, what is the? I mean, this is posted by Islamic Freedom. Who are they?
So this is AI, in other words, or
that looks like AI to me, man.
Really?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely AI.
But like, look, there are not enough mosques in Moscow.
Go back to that picture.
Of prayer of, like, it's understandable when you import that much migrant labor, and when you have no borders between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and Russia because of CSI, and actually invariably no border between Moscow and Afghanistan when you have porous borders like that, right? When you have that much population decline, and when you have that many people moving around, and you have an imperial ideology that says we all live together now under Putin. Like, the one cool thing about Putinism is that they're actually not in favor of any kind of religious and sectarian stuff, because it's a powder keg that would blow Russia up. They really put a lot of effort into tamping that stuff down. And there are all sorts of ultra-nationalists on the Russian side who make them uncomfortable because they tamp that stuff up. You know that, right?
Yeah, but isn't a large? I mean, doesn't the Orthodox Church in Russia have a lot of sway on the government? And I don't know.
The government's got a lot of sway on the Orthodox Church. That's the best way of saying it, because a lot of those people, in fact, I think the leadership of the Russian Orthodox Church,
they're all KGB guys.
Yeah, they're all KGB. But anyway, this is not AI. This is an actual video, by the way.
Right. The difference between Western Europe and Russia is that in Western Europe, the state was dominated by the church for 1,500 years, and then you had the Enlightenment and the rest of it, and like the counter Enlightenment and the Protestant break. In Russia, it's always been the case that since 1,000 years ago, the Tsarist state dominated the church. So the church is absolutely subservient to the Kremlin, not the other way around. You understand that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it's a completely backward situation in Western Europe for all sorts of reasons. Completely different civilizational history.
But I would also argue that in terms of strong horse, weak horse, a lot of the Russian people are unfortunately subservient to these guys. Because, again, from the reports that I've looked at, a lot of the Muslims in the big metropolitan areas of Russia, like Moscow, they do hold a certain amount of power. Putin doesn't want to piss them off. Putin wants to be on their good side, you know, especially after this whole
It's a balancing act. It's a balancing act between.
Well, and
Yeah, go
I'd be careful,
Yeah.
Lev. And I know you're a smart guy, and we talk a lot. And actually, I wish more people your age could be more geopolitically sound like you are. So it's refreshing. I used to only find that in Eastern Europe. They seem to know more about our politics than we do. But what I was going to say is be careful with that kind of stuff. I see Voice of America was a source for that one. You know, I'm sure if you click on that Islamic Now, whatever that other one was, it'd be curious to see where that Twitter account's coming out of. But what better way to get Americans to back more aid to Ukraine by showing a Muslim invasion in Russia? You see what I mean?
Well, that
So-
video was from many, many years ago. Like, a lot of these
Okay.
videos are pretty old and historic when it comes to the
Brian,
amount.
there's not an invasion. The Russian Empire has had huge subservient constituent Muslim population.
No, I'm not saying there's an invasion.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is a different topic is, you know, so my real expertise, without going into detail because I can't legally, like Middle East Monitor. Okay, so that's coming out of the Middle East, and I think the
Right.
Middle East Monitor is controlled by the UK. So,
Okay, but this is from Russia's TASS news agency, so I would have to find the source.
but
from
it's not
TASS
linked.
official-
You notice that?
Yes, but that doesn't mean that that's not the case.
No,
So
I mean, the TASS is a
Tends to be
Russian.
the case.
TASS is the official CNN mouthpiece of Russia.
Oh, I know who they are, but what I'm saying is, this is what I guess I'm just doing a little propaganda here. 101 is what we've always seen, and the trick that always happens is you link sources if you have a source. Okay, if you don't want people to find a source, you just quote them and then you retract.
Brian,
Okay.
this is exactly the kind of thing that they do. That they don't actually want to give large concessions to Islam or Muslim or the Ummah or whatever. But what they do.
Yeah, no, I'm
is-
agreeing with you. I was just talking about propaganda.
Yeah, you're
methodology.
absolutely right about propaganda. But that Russia gives small symbolic concessions to Quran burning, a niche issue for them in a place far, far away from a metropolitan center. Where in a place like Chechnya, if they want to put a guy in prison for burning a Quran, that's perfectly okay with a justice minister in Moscow. That's the kind of thing that they do. Sort of.
Oh, yeah. Look at Pussy Riot.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's not. You know that's true. I think you do know that.
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't even doubting that. I was I was being Big Brother propaganda here, saying,
no,
you know,
fair enough. No,
it was
I
a
understand-
teaching moment.
I understand Brian's point. I also understand your point, Vlad. Where I would say we could possibly disagree is that in terms of the amount of, let's say, lip service that the Russian government is giving right now to the Muslims, I
Right.
doubt that they're going to start cracking down on Islamism in the future in terms of population rates. You know, Muslim families do end up having a lot more children.
Yeah.
And the future of Russia, which is also the future if Russia takes these parts of Eastern Europe, is going to look a lot more Islamized. And to me, that looks like a pincer effect, where you got Western Europe being Islamized through these weenies opening up the borders, and Eastern Europe getting eventually Islamized too through Russia conquering it. And that's why I'm not really seeing.
I mean,
this
it's
as
not
playing
going to
off.
be Islamized. You're just going to have more Muslims in a place like Mariupol when they give them free apartments that they rebuild.
Yeah, and Lev, I don't want to call you out, but you did.
please.
Your original premise was that it's being taken over, not that they're allowing it. And that's what we were pushing back on, not to gang up on you, but
Well, who's taking over as far as England? It's also a matter of
Well,
English
England is
politicians allowing the Muslims to take over regions. I remember really seeing that much.
Totally, that's happening in the UK. I would also tell people too, and I was talking to Karis Rea the other day, who's a strong pro-Zionist Israeli, wonderful conversation. She's excellent, as I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East, a lot of time, years in the Middle East. And, I speak a pretty bad Arabic, but I speak fluent Arabic. And my thing is, people assume that like all world Islam is unified, and it is certainly not.
No.
It's about as unified as all 50 of our states. We have something in common. We have borders. We're probably less so. So, for instance, when I first met my first Arab, is on an exercise with 5th Special Forces,
Right.
in Oman, and we were working with the Omani Sultan Special Force and the Jordanian Special Forces. The Omanis wouldn't even walk near the Jordanians. Okay, they wanted nothing to. That's a lower class. That's like 2 classes beneath them.
Yes.
And that is the case for Islam all over the world. This idea that I hear you about the pincer move, and that makes sense. I'm saying the same thing that's happening in American politics with the communists on both sides of our aisle, is that pincer move. And I see that happening. This is a long conversation, but yeah, I hear you. I just wanted to make the point that, like,
you're making things which are not totally untrue a little bit more schematic than necessary. I think that's what Brian is saying, and I agree with that.
Yeah. I do want to look. I'm gonna have to go soon, but I just want to make it clear. Here's my point. Okay.
Yes.
Can we end with like my proposal is basically fortify relations with those countries that are at risk of going to Russia, leave in place the aid that's been given now, lean on Europe and they're kind of doing that by selling weapons to Europe, and then they can give them to Ukraine if they want. I don't think they're going to give them all to Ukraine, especially Germany, because they've got some pretty ambitious goals with their own military, and they've reopened
as well. They should now. They have to
totally, and they've reopened basically arms trading with Israel as well in the last 2 weeks.
Cool.
So
it's great.
I think it's freaking awesome. Thank you. It's so. God, I love talking to Jewish people.
But like, I'm a base Jew, bro. I'm a base Ukrainian Jew.
What do you mean when you say base? I'm an old guy. What's that mean?
Lev, explain based.
Okay, based means that you are cool, that you are with it, in the sense of not being
a weenie.
Not being a weenie, not
being
allowing yourself to be walked upon, to be treaded upon. Standing up for yourself,
being comfortable with force, being comfortable with the application.
Oh, good, yeah. Oh, you definitely got to come to Crown Heights. You could even volunteer for their security force, which is awesome.
But Jews are getting more guns right now, by the way, right? With Mamdani coming to the scene. There was
it's funny. I brought that up with the rabbi here in the Salem area, and he's originally from Brooklyn, and he's like, and I just wish, and I'm sure Vlad will see what I mean here, and you too, Lev. You're from New York, so, but it's like I just wish more of these people who say these outrageous things about Jewish people, and it's clear they've never met one, could actually go to like what I went to last night, which is like the cherubic rabbi and that's like most of them I meet. Don't get me wrong, they're not pushovers, but they're like, we got, they're saying buy more guns for Mandami. They actually address this. They're saying they got to buy more guns because of Mandami. And it's like, no, we're going to put up, about 50 more synagogues, and so that's, kind of how they roll. But, what I was going to say on my other point is like, if people could just meet them, they'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that's smart. Oh, wait, like, for instance, I see these things on X and they're like, oh, these underground tunnels and slave trade of children. I mean, you would think like it's a small world. It's actually real children. It's controlled by the Israelis, And so I hear these things, and it's just ridiculous. Like, I've been into that building where the secret tunnels were. First of all, it's freaking New York. Every basement looks like a secret tunnel. That's where people store their mattresses and chairs and additional stuff, especially when they're doing the Rosh Hashanah Chabad, where people come from all over the world and stay with them. But if the people could just meet, Jewish people, they would know things like the Talmud is not the Torah. Have you seen this, Vlad? Everyone's quoting not even real Talmud.
I saw retards like Dasha from
Red
she
Scare.
talks about me on her
Yeah.
podcast. I'm going to talk about her. Retards like Dasha, like reading the Talmud, like, my friend Leo Leibowitz tweeted, we should have a podcast called Retards Reading the Talmud. It would be great.
Well, and then, actually, Karis, not to derail your conversation, Lev, I'll just say this last thing, but look, here's the thing. I'm Roman Catholic, and
Mhm.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously, if I was totally atheist and I had to choose between, and there is no takeover by the 18 million Jews in the world of the entire world, it logistically makes no sense.
Right.
But the if I had to choose, let's say in Bizarro land, that Netanyahu's goal was to rule the world and control all of Western, all of the world.
Israel or all that.
It's not that ambitious, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, they could barely manage their own country, but
Right.
the thing is, if I had to choose between who took over the world, and that was the Israelis and the Islamic Caliphate as envisioned by Turkey, I'd certainly go with the Israelis.
It'd be a more liberal and better run than.
Oh my God, yes,
Well,
absolutely.
also, a lot of Jews are atheists. Like the ones who founded Israel, a lot of them came from Russia, where they just didn't want to be
Socialist type.
persecuted. They didn't want to be persecuted by these drunken Russians and Ukrainians, that got mad at them.
We got to wrap it up.
Yes, okay, we're wrapping it right now. But
Yeah.
just final
Hey,
point,
are you in New York for a while, Vlad?
Yeah, I'm in and out. I'll be here. I'll be here all January.
real quick. Final point about the
hang
Zionists.
out, yeah?
They didn't want to get their grandmothers executed by these goons. They wanted to participate in Western civilization. They weren't allowed to, so they thought, why not make Israel? At least we could have like a piece of Western civilization in this area. That's the last point there. Final thing that I wanted to ask Brian before we go.
Yes.
As far as certain memes that could now be dispelled, where now from now on, if somebody brings this up, you could actually say, oh, like I talked to a Ukrainian guy and, he gave me a better idea of what exactly is going on here, or not, when it comes to people not being allowed to state what they really think in Kyiv and Ukraine regarding the government, because that was like a big thing that I wanted to make sure we talk about there.
I don't think I'd change anything now, because even I was referring back to a previous time. And the fact that that young man said he's getting his news from Telegram, that's not a bad thing. I hope they're careful about which Telegram channels they're listening to. But I would say that there really are to be honest, like no one's talking about Ukraine in conservative media. They're just not. No one really cares. I'm not saying that to be mean. It's just, unfortunately, there's a whole new, population of morons who seem to think Candace Owens is going to solve all the secrets of the world with her
Oh, and by the way,
true
before we
crime
go,
novel.
You remember what I told you, Brian, before about my conspiracy theory that when the Epstein stuff started up again, it was around the time that Trump wanted to send the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. And then now the Epstein stuff isn't brought up anymore around the time that Trump started going a little bit against Ukraine. And I think that there may be certain people in the media who got the call as far as, well, now we need to push on this particular issue, because according to that email that was sent by the Epstein brothers to each other, they were talking about how they have how Putin has evidence of Trump, for the YouTube algorithm here, I'll say, playing Bill Clinton's saxophone. And when they said Bill Clinton, they used the word Bubba, which was a nickname for Clinton. Even though the Epstein brother explicitly denies that this is referring to Clinton, obviously, why would he ever?
But the thing is, they knew they were under surveillance when they said it's 2018. They could do anything they want. Epstein's in bed, deep in bed with the Democrats, and it's like, oh, let's send some emails, because we know the FBI is going to look at them. Oh, I saw Donald Trump and he was having sex with a giraffe in the Central Zoo, and it's like they know all the emails are being monitored.
You can have sex with a giraffe? I believe the giraffe story.
You need a ladder and some Gatorade, and we could get into that at another time when we do
I
break the rules after
think
dark.
Trump doesn't have the experience. He wouldn't know how to do that if he wanted to. I think most men
No.
wouldn't know how to do it. I think it's very difficult.
Well, as far as Trump goes, like I said before, Studio
No.
54, the apprentice of a known homosexual guy, Roy Cohn. Who was, he did a lot of good things. He expelled a lot of the communists. He was working with McCarthy. But he's someone who was playing in the shadows when it comes to, certain people. When you do things in the shadows and associate with people who do things in the shadows, you're probably going to have some compromising stuff that's going to be on you, much like Clinton definitely has, I think, when it comes to Mena, Arkansas, and the kind of stuff that he was doing there, right? Like, this is part and parcel of modern politicians when they need to be controlled. They're going to.
Can I just say this? Can I just say this? Though?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Shabbat in an hour. I got to go.
You do. That's
All
right.
right. All right.
You do.
Shabbat shalom.
Vlad, get my number. Get my number from.
Are you in Brooklyn? You're in Brooklyn?
I will be next week. So yeah.
I'll see you next week.
We all gotta.
But yeah, get my number from.
I want to meet your lady. I'm fascinated by her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll set up a meeting.
And Vlad, where could people follow your Substack?
Yeah, my Substack is a lot of fun. Everyone should read my Substack. It's called The Fantastical Daybook of Vladislav Davidzon. It's basically a glorified diary about my fun life and about literature and art and culture and politics. And
here is the link in the chat for all you guys. So go there right now.
Fantastical Daybook. Brian, please sign up. I'd love you to read
I will
it.
definitely
Write about culture and about. I stay out of American politics. It's boring and everyone else does it. And
I think it's so exciting.
Too exciting.
Yeah, all right, guys.
All right, chance. Bye.
And see you later, Vlad.
Brian, don't go yet. I also want you to promote your good. Bye, Vlad. Shabbat shalom. So, Brian, before you promote your own work, if there's any other thoughts that you had on the conversation, I would love to hear it. Because with the thing that I mentioned regarding thoughts on Russia and Ukraine, my big concern here is that I know it's not the big subject of discussion among Republican circles right now, but there has been this emphasis for a long time, like, well, they're both pretty much the same. And I'm not saying that seeing that they're not the same would change, let's say, certain approaches that you or others would have towards those areas, but I think it would still play a role into at least, you're all about truth, so it would play a role into establishing kind of truth, or who exactly are we dealing with here? What are the kind of rules that Russians have to abide by versus Ukrainians? Can Russians go out and publicly talk about how much of an asshole Putin is? Can Ukrainian people do that? See, that's like the big difference that I want to at least establish, just for the sake of truth.
That'll be a longer conversation because let's not forget, they did shut down churches in Ukraine. They were, by your guys' own admission, were silencing people by force just 2 years ago. So can we just table that for now?
Let's table that for now.
I think what you have there is certain freedoms in both countries that the other country doesn't have.
I would disagree by a huge extent, but that's okay. We'll continue that later, especially with the church conversation. I want to get actually somebody from the churches. In fact, I'm speaking to somebody right now who's associated with the Orthodox Church. So let's see what happens with that conversation, and that's a very important one to have. So
absolutely.
With that being said, Brian, as always, my friend, I really appreciate you coming on here. You are super intelligent. You are able to look at things that other people avoid. My service, what I hope to do with BTR, is to provide you and provide the people who you are around with as much information as I can on things that may not have been focused on that much. So I hope that I was able to do a little bit of that today with...
Dude, you know what's magic about your show is when you let conversations open up, because as much as I'm a podcaster too, and I get my questions ready, and it's like, and then the answers you get are never as simple as that. And what I really enjoyed about both you and Vlad is, especially in this conversation, is that we're all trying to give that black and white answer to things, and then we find ourselves probably in the same predicament that any diplomat, any head of state finds themselves in. But if I do this, then this happens. If I do this, then this happens. And I think it's important to show these conversations Like, don't forget, like me and Vlad, we don't agree on a lot of things, but we do agree that there's no simple answer. And like, we're pretty much friends now, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
exactly.
what's nice about your show. The magic of it is this is a good model for where America was, where it needs to get back to, is this kind of debate. We don't have to yell at each other, call each other names. Even I'm guilty of that with
Yeah.
Twitter.
Well, it makes a lot more money to do that kind of stuff. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate thing with like the Tuckers and the Candace Owens and all of that. They are going to where the money is, and the money is in drama. The money is on choosing specific targets, like, for example, the Jews in Israel and all of that. All that's
God.
been really, really juicy. And unfortunately, the ADL did not help in the least with making it not the forbidden fruit that it has been for a long time. You know, like with censoring discussion of this stuff for such a long time, a lot of young people growing up, that seems to be the safest thing that they could criticize. It's so safe to criticize Israel when you're like a student in the United States. You know what I mean? Like you could criticize them for being imperialistic and having, you know, white privilege on steroids and all of that, as well as from the right, criticizing them for attributing the really bad problems that we're at right now with whatever machinations that Jews happen to be doing upon the American people to keep them in that state. So both sides tend to have that as a really, really good cat's paw to avoid having the kind of conversations we're having right now.
Right,
We're really
right.
trying to find out, well, who is responsible and how do we tackle that problem in the long term? Like when it comes to immigration, all that, there are going to be various things that people who are more on the liberal side would not want to entertain. For example, the use of force. For example, having like an alternative to maybe our current legal system that future elites would have to adopt in order to save the Western civilization from, you know, certain Gordian knots that for now have been, you know, tied up too much. So that's just like an example of hard conversations that I enjoy having and that I think need to happen with us, because if it ain't happening with us, then the people who are going to take charge are going to be the grifters, are going to be the people that are going to be populistic to a fault, where their kind of populism is going to be the people who just want to get the juiciest forbidden fruit eaten all the time. And those are the people that are appealed to today.
Yeah, our future is becoming like Biff's future in Back to the Future 2. And I think it goes beyond just like, I think, you know, right now Israel is the flavor of the, you know, quarter. But I think it's almost this weird backlash against like who a lot of people view as the elite class with the censorship during COVID and everything, because it goes beyond just anti-Semitism. I mean, people are saying the N-word openly on X, which shocks me. People are, look at this Candace Owens thing. Like, she's got a cult over there where, like, now if you disagree with her, a bunch of people attack you, call you all sorts of names. I was called a Zionist as if it's an insult the other day, and by a guy who's Roman Catholic like me. I don't think he realized I was Catholic. But it's like, you know, if you take away the labels, it's like you look at, it's all the same structure. It's like this kind of mass psychosis, this brain funk that's come over people, and they're mad. And we'll talk about that another time. But you'd mentioned grift, and that's a great segue. The second link there. So if you guys go to Consumer Diligence, can you put that on the screen?
I'm doing that right now. And by the way, everybody who's watching this, be sure to like, subscribe, and also patreon.com/breaktherules. Here is, well, here's your Twitter, and here is consumerdiligence.org. In fact, let me put this
in
let
the
me put
private
this up on the
chat, I've
screen.
got the Substack. Actually, it's
Okay,
more
and
visually appealing.
Let's see over here. Private
The
chat.
second one.
Second one. Oh, hold on. Let me load it up. And by the way, one other reminder, if you guys become patrons for $20, you are going to get the ability to physically be in New York City where the BTR NYC episodes take place. So here is the link. Consumer Diligence.
I know I don't have to give 20 because you've already invited me, but I certainly will.
Don't worry. No. You are you're Grant. Look, you come on the streams. You'll be the guest of honor. So anyway,
thanks.
over here, I put a link into it, and also let me share the screen so people take a better look at What's Crack-a-lackin' over here?
Okay, so this is our Substack. So it's consumerdiligence.org is the main site, consumerdiligence.substack.com. I founded this with Dallas Ludlam, and he is our senior editor, and we all pitch in. And what we're doing here is, regardless of something outside of politics, what we're doing here is we are catching every grift known to man. We have the Shadow Highway series, which is 4 parts, all about, it's shocking, the kind of, actual ripoffs that hit Americans at huge amounts. Which one is that there at the No King Station?
Speaking of huge.
Yeah, she's a healthy, she's a good eater. But the we actually had I brought in a guest writer to do a deep dive on the escalator company that stopped when Trump was going up it in the UN. And what's really great about it is, we were talking about graft. If you go to the one I sent you earlier, you can probably see it on the main menu there. If you scroll, or that one there, look at this. No, with the doctor.
Oh yeah, this guy over here.
Here's a great example. Like, this is one of the most endorsed, promoted retail pharmacies on Rumble. Like, it's everywhere, and it's got Matt Gaetz, it's got Donald Trump Jr. And look what's happening over there. Everyone's talking about Somalia Medicare fraud. We're not making this stuff up. This is an ongoing thing going on with the Wisconsin Attorney General against the doctor who's writing the prescriptions at this MAGA popular pharmacy. How do you even know if you're getting a safe prescription? How do you know where your ivermectin's coming from? I can tell you right now, it's coming from China. Just look at but we look at those things, and it's not like we're picking on these guys. We don't know these guys, but people write in, there's like, it's a little weird. All these influencers are pushing this pharmacy that seems to have come out of nowhere. Or like the Dollar General thing. Elisa, one of our writers, happened to go into Dollar General, and when she got up to the register, she's like, that's a little more expensive than I thought. And she didn't think about it, goes out to her car and realizes every single price was a certain percentage higher than the price on the shelf. And it turns out it's a nationwide scam. So we want people to go to the Substack to, please consider a paid subscription, because that's how I pay these guys to do this writing. But it's consumer reports on steroids. We're going into the businesses. We are always looking for additional writers who can write and know how to source things, preferably trained. And even, we even found a Soros connection in Maha, a big one, almost directly related to Callie Means, who is, RFK Jr.'s right-hand man. And again, I'm MAGA. So you could see one thing that I enjoy about this is, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world with politics. Scammers be scamming, man. And they're going to take advantage of every hypercharged situation. And what this site shows is that's exactly what's happening. And, I'd like everyone to please become subscribers. If you can't afford the subscription, that's okay. Go ahead and share it. And, you write into me, and if you say, hey man, I share this like 10 people, I might even just give you a subscription. It's important that the info gets out there.
That's very nice of you. And the link, by the way, just if you guys are just tuning in, it's in the chat, consumerdiligence.substack.com.
Yep. And you can follow us on X. It's right there near my name. It's at ConsumerDD. Please follow. All that stuff helps everything. And following on X helps you share the things, but it also, that's really good esprit de corps. That really pumps up the morale of the writers when they see people are interested. It's honestly, man, this stuff is like, this puts true crime to shame, because it's really happening. It's crazy, the scams we find.
And unfortunately, a lot of it also comes down to this question of honor, which, I don't know, back in the day in the 1800s, how people would handle these kind of things. I'm sure there were a lot of snake oil salesmen back then as well that were able to trick people. And, obviously we had the whole machine politics of, you remember in New York City, what was that guy's name? He was also in Gangs of New York, featured.
Tammany
Hall, that's it. So, obviously we had things like that. But still, one would think, maybe I'm looking in the past with rose-colored glasses, one would think that there was maybe a little bit more honor, a little bit less grift going on when it comes
There
to
were
the
more.
people who are...
There were greater consequences, I think.
Why would you, and I'm not disagreeing, but why, this is like the last thing, I'm just really curious about this. What do you think kept people in check?
Fear of getting killed by Bill the Butcher. I mean, seriously, it's like, let's not forget, like,
Yeah.
gentlemen were carrying around sabers and foils up until not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I do think, we won't get into it, but it's like, I think there's been a pacification by some forces of the Western world.
Pacification, more like it.
Pacification, absolutely. So yeah, I think there were more consequences. And actually, one thing Naomi said to me when she first, we went out to a ranch where my daughter grew up, and she was meeting a lot of ranchers and blue collar people for the first time. And she said to me, she's like, wow, everyone is so polite, everyone is so gentlemanly. She goes, and she didn't see that in the world of the elitist left in Manhattan. And I noticed that when I met her. I was like, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass if he says that again. And she goes, why is that? I said, well, see, over here it's built into the culture, like, you ain't gonna say anything untoward someone's wife because you're gonna get your teeth knocked out, and that's it. And it rarely happens, but it's right there. And I think,
and the legal system allows for that still in the South, because I bet you,
does it
Brian,
allow? No.
Well, here's where I'm getting to, though. I bet you that the reason why a lot of guys out there who otherwise are technically, like, physically built in such a way that they would be able to, let's say, defend a woman or some old lady or guy who is being harassed by a thug in the New York City subway, I think the reason why fewer of them do that have nothing to do with them being physically harmed by that guy. It has everything to do with them imagining sitting down in the court, all the jury being against them, and at the least, all the police reports and like all this thing that in the past it would have been very obvious, that this guy was harassing this lady and this dude did the right thing by defending. There's no reason to get more into it than that. And now that's not the case anymore. So you're right. Like, this is, but in the South, would you say it's a little bit different, or no, when it comes to like more of the honor culture there? Like,
believe it or not, I'm actually talking about, like, just east of Sacramento, California. That's all ranch country.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm not going to speak for the South. I was down there in the military, so it's like, I wasn't really part of the South, but I was definitely part of that kind of southwestern ranch belt. And it wasn't so much that the courts wouldn't do anything; they certainly would. It's just that it never went that far, because when you, if you got to the ranch and Tommy is there with his teeth knocked out, and Cliff is standing over him, and the cops come out, they're gonna be like, "Hey, what happened?" And you're gonna have 5 cowboys say, "I didn't see anything." And that's the thing, and that's ironically, there's a certain agency that taught us a long time ago in our legal brief that, if you get in a situation, and this was when I went to the firearms course, they had a legal brief, and I'm not even going to say the agency or confirm it in any way, but they may have said, what do you do when you end up overseas and you end up in a situation where you have to take someone down? Because everything is taught from, throwing back your coat, coming out, and 2 shots in 3 seconds. And I asked the lawyer that, and he's like, well, the key thing is to get back to the embassy. And I said, okay, but what about, should I wait for the cops? He goes, no. If there's a ditch nearby, So yeah. So I think it's more that there was kind of like a no, there, and it still very much exists today. You don't snitch.
Yeah.
Okay. If the guy if your buddy's an asshole,
snitches get stitches, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, if your buddy's an asshole and he's beating up everyone, of course you might want to call the cops.
Yeah.
But like, if he's defending and even the guy that goes down, he understands. Like, okay, I had that coming.
And the ironic thing, by the way, Brian, is that this is the kind of mentality that the Somalis actually have. Like, for all the talk of it being like a low trust culture, not within themselves. like within themselves, from what I've read,
That's a lot
you
of
don't
ethnic cultures.
yeah, like you don't have to worry about a Somali, like a fellow Somali, stealing from a fellow Somali. It's not going to happen. So that just
Yeah.
goes to say that these are things that people have worked out for thousands of years, regardless of the level of development of their culture. That certain things, they have to have a certain equilibrium so that things don't get out of control. A lot of us silly Westerners, we got this idea that everything needs to be handled according to this procedure,
Yeah,
but
man,
we
what
end
is
up
up with
getting
that?
choked with that procedure so much that now we're allowing for real violence to proliferate. So again, this is all to say that
Yeah,
these problems are going to have to be solved, and if
they
it's not
are.
going to be solved by us, if it's not going to be solved by people who are, let's say, more mindful about
Right.
repercussions, unfortunately, it's going to be solved by a combination of like Mad Max style warlords and online like cryptocurrency grifters. That's
Yeah.
going to be the
Well, Lev,
future.
let me say
Yeah.
something to your point. As a man, there is nothing more pathetic when I see another man pulling out his cell phone and start recording me or someone else saying, "Okay, I'm getting this on video." It's like, when did we become a world of disgusting little snitch babies? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I mean, if you pulled that stuff on like half of my family,
hmm
who, I had at least 3 brothers spent significant time in prison because, we were Maine was rednecks of the Northeast. But you almost killed. Like, are you kidding me? Like, even today, like, they're like,
Yeah.
you're gonna what? And so when I see that, it's like, men, be men again. Seriously.
Well,
Like,
I hope this is something that a lot of these Mabnani voting transplants who came to New York City are going to eventually learn.
you've seen them,
But
huh?
yeah, well,
Dude,
there's
they
one in
all look so
particular.
soft.
There's what? Okay, after we go off a line, I got something I want to tell you real quick. But
Can
guys,
I?
this is
I'm sorry.
sure.
Can I push out just as a favor? Dallas has a great Substack too, and I just want to promote it.
100%. What's the
Conservative
link?
Compass. It's right there in the private chat. It may be merged with.
Okay.
I have two links together there, but it's
Oh, here I
Conservative
found it.
Compass.
Sure, absolutely. Here we go.
Yeah,
Conservative
and
Compass.
it's not affiliated with.
Sorry, that's the old one. Here, I'm gonna get the. And by the way, go to consumerdiligence.substack as well.
Thank you. Yes.
Here I see. Oh, right over here. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of
Everybody
put 2 together there.
No,
but
no problem. Here we go. Go to this link, conservativecompass.com. And what is Conservative Compass?
It's really thoughtful. Well, there's 2 parts to it. It's really, really thoughtful commentary on the current state of things. Is that? Oh, did you just put the link in there?
Here, I'm going to do it one more time with just. Again, I did it. Consumer intel. Oh, look, you can't have enough of consumer diligence, but here is the right one. Finally, I got it. I separated it, like a surgeon away from the rest of the body. Conservativecompass.substack.com. Here it is.
Yeah, and there's something really interesting here. He's going to kill me for doing this, but when I say this, so Conservative Compass. But in Conservative Compass, I started reading something called the Bishop Directive. And it's kind of like a born identity thing. Now, I'm not going to tell you who Dallas Ludlam is related to, but you might be able to figure it out based on the clues I just gave you.
I'm gonna have to think on that. And
so yeah, and you see
Empire,
at the top there, the Bishop Directive. Oh, I mean, Dallas is an incredible writer. He's very good. I'm giving you so many hints, man. Come on. A born identity type story, a guy whose last name is Ludlam. So
I don't know, man. I gotta look into this a little bit more.
But the Bishop Directive, if you could call that up, Dallas had told me about it not too long ago. So at the very scroll to the top menu, and then right at the top.
Oh, here we go. Found it.
This is an amazing story, and he's releasing like a chapter. You can like go there, read a chapter, and it's good. I would say it's even better than the Born Identity.
Nice.
And who wrote the Born Identity again? Wasn't his name Robert Ludlam? You guys don't want to miss it. Definitely subscribe. Tell him Brian sent you, so Dallas knows him. I'm promoting it, but I'm promoting it because I've read it, and it's so good. And I tell a lot of people I'm going to read their stuff, and I get around to it, but I feel bad for the people I promised before Dallas, because once I started reading even his regular posts, I'm like, man, it's just fine writing, man. And there's just something to be said about a talented writer. So check it out. He also writes a lot for Consumer Diligence, so you get the best of both worlds.
Nice.
Yeah, enjoy it. Definitely subscribe, man. That way we could have some water cooler talk about chapter 3 of the Bishop Directive. It's awesome stuff.
And definitely, by the way, guys, subscribe to Brian O'Shea and subscribe
Substack.com.
to Substack.com.
Yeah, it's called Investigate Everything. Yep.
Investigate Everything. Here, let me put that link in as well.
Sorry, man.
No,
I wasn't even going to bring it up, but seeing how you did.
Investigate everything.substack.com. Let me just load that up right now. And yeah, we are definitely going to continue this conversation with actually defaults to brianO'Shea.substack.com, but here it is. Here is the link. And we are definitely going to continue this conversation.
We have to talk about Epstein, man. Your findings and your analysis is incredible.
We'll get there. But also, I want to keep as a bookmark that scenario we outlined about, if Russia has this amount of land and what happens here, what happens there, because we already built up to that point. We might as well explore it the full way here. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. It was a great pleasure. And next time, I'm going to make sure that it's going to be in the right place with plenty of cell phone batteries, or however they do it nowadays. I'm sure they figured out, like the man on the street type people, how to actually do this long term without the cell phone battery running out. So we'll do the research, we'll find out. But hey, even today, we got 2 people.
He just froze. This is odd. So we got 2 people on the street live stream. We got some good insight, so I'm looking forward to the next episode, and I'm gonna hop out here. So I don't know what just happened.
Sorry about that. I am back. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. The computer just went on the fritz.
I started doing your outro for you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And with that, guys, I want to bid everybody a goodbye for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to Brian. Big thank you to Brian. Big thank you to Vlad. Big thank you to JerryMacc, the Ukrainian Loremaster, our man on the street, who was incredibly helpful today with talking to all these people and bring them in. So again, guys, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks. Thanks, love. Bye.